Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this is the Mike Graham Show at 7 o'clock. It is, of course, Thursday, the 16th of April, pretty much halfway through the new month, the first month of the summertime, really. And we are heading headlong into what would be considered to be, of course, the cricket season. And of course everything else that's going on. We've already got a pedant for the first time. First mention of the day from Carla. Nothing about Epsom on your ticket. Why not? Should be main news. Well, there's nothing to say about Epsom, right? We will be talking about Epsom because we have got a clip actually from last night, the riot police turning out in Epsom to try and quell a disturbance, as they would call it, which was actually a demonstration by the people of Epsom who want to know who on earth are the culprits and who on earth are the suspects in the rape of a young woman there from the weekend. And basically, if there is any news to be brought to you, we will bring it to you. Here's the way it works, okay? And I don't wish in any way for you to take this the wrong way, Carla, but we tell you what the news is. We are the most honest and most efficient news organisation on the planet, right? What we don't do is hide the news. What we don't do is pretend the news isn't happening. And what we don't do is obfuscate the news. So what we do is bring you the news as and when it happens. Occasionally, for example, as in yesterday, I said, what on earth is going on with Morgan McSweeney's phone? Why is that not in the news? And that would be a legitimate question. The Epsom story, however, has yet to develop, but we are keeping an eye on it, and we will mention it from time to time whenever there is a chance to do it. And we, as I say, you preempted yourself, because if you'd waited until you saw the rollout of the show, you could have sat here at 9:30 and gone, you know what was great about Mike's show was that they actually covered what happened in Epsom last night, as opposed to going, where's the Epsom story? So forgive me, Carla, and I'm not going to be unkind here, but if you're really good at news, you'd be in charge of the show, which you're not. So thank you very much indeed. Lots and lots of stories to talk about this morning. However, we have got an incredible array of brilliant guests. Christian Drogan is going to join us from Watchmen. He's going to be over in Belgium, and he's going to give us a live report from the what can only be described as the asylum camps from the other side of the channel. And he's going to be telling us exactly what's going on there. We're also going to talk to Harvey Proctor, of course, former Tory MP. He's got something to say about Scott Mills. He's all over the front pages of the papers this morning because apparently he's in torment, according to the Daily Mail. Torment is etched on the face of sacked BBC star Scott. Ex-Radio 2 DJ Scott Mills. Apparently, they've already worked out who's going to take his job, and he was out walking his dog yesterday, and everybody's feeling terribly sorry for him. I'm not sure I'm one of those people. We're also going to be bringing you and asking you, actually, to contribute to this, because there's a study going on at Sheffield University about localised swearing, things that you say if you're from a particular part of the country. I'll give you some examples as we go. But if you've got any swear words that you want us to read out, and try and keep it as clean as you possibly can, obviously, because we don't want to upset the young children who might be listening. We certainly don't want to upset the horses. But basically, so tell us whether you're in Nottingham, whether you're in Newcastle, whether you're in Nantwich, or any other place that begins with an N. Doesn't have to begin with an, obviously, don't take it too literally. Tell us exactly what you say to people to insult them. All sorts of different stories on the front pages. UK faces a summer of shortages, says the Times. Family tax bills are going to rise by £4,000 per household, says the Daily Telegraph. Labour's shameful betrayal of women, says the Daily Mail. And the front page of The Sun has got a funny story about Heidi Alexander, who is, of course, the Transport Secretary, who's got a Mini, and it went into a pothole and is now completely wrecked, which pretty much sums up the state of this government, doesn't it? Also, Rachel Reeves, off to Washington, D.C. She's had a go at Donald Trump. What's wrong with these people? Richard III, you know, here's a little tip for you, Rach. When you go over to meet the President of the United States of America, it's probably best not to slag him off shortly before you get on the plane, because you know what he's going to do. He's already saying now he might actually cancel the trade agreement he's got with old Starmer. Unbelievable. And we've got a poll going as well, which is Rachel Reeves is off to the USA. Where should she actually be going? Should it be 1, Bosworth Field? Should it be 2, the Straits of Hormuz? Should it be 3, Legoland? Or should it be 4, a car park in Leicester? We've decided, 46% of you anyway so far, think it should be a car park in Leicester. Absolutely brilliant. Now, let me introduce you to a man who was here just the other day talking about the council rich list because he's from the Taxpayers Alliance. He is the one and only Mr. Benjamin Elks. Benjamin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Great
good
to be
see
here.
you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back in.
Yeah.
You had quite a hit with that council tax or council rich list the other day.
Yeah.
Lots of good coverage in the papers. We've got some other things to talk about this morning, and we'll come back to that. Labour's shameful betrayal of women. This is on the first anniversary of the landmark ruling by the Supreme Court, who basically had to tell Keir Starmer, because he didn't know, what a woman is, right? And they told him, you can only be a woman if you were actually born a woman. You can't be a woman if you were born a bloke and you've had your cock removed, right? That doesn't make you a woman. You can't be a woman if you put a dress on and just pretend that you're a woman. And you also can't be a woman just because you want to be one. But they're basically saying that the judgment has been given, but yet people like Bridget Phillipson and others in the government have not quite kind of followed through on the legislation.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be just sitting on this guidance that the public organisations are waiting for them to issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that we need guidance on this. It's absurd that it had to go to the Supreme Court to get a settlement.
Right.
As you say, sort of the idea that we don't know what a woman is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and an awful lot of these organisations are public sector organisations, which you will cover, of course, as part of your sort of remit as the Taxpayers Alliance. But NHS trusts, police forces, town halls, Whitehall departments, and all sorts of other public sector organisations failing to comply with the rules, and particularly when it comes to women being given their own safe spaces, women being given the right to go into a changing room or a toilet or whatever it is, and not have to see a man.
Yeah.
But loads of these public sector organisations just ignoring the law.
Yeah, they are. And they're just hiding behind this thing of, we need the guidance from the central government. No, you don't. They know what the rules are.
Right.
And Bridget Phillipson is just sort of sitting on this because she doesn't want to upset her backbenchers.
Right. I mean, there's a clip, I don't think we've got it today, but there's a clip I've seen of her on LBC in which she tries really kind of excoriatingly and really kind of embarrassingly to explain what she thinks a woman is and why, the trans lobby has got the wherewithal to kind of define precisely where they should get rights and where women should have rights. And they're all sort of jumbled up about it, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely shocking that we're at this fact that we've known for millennia is all of a sudden in question and needed a court ruling to instruct ministers as to what the definition of a woman is. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. Inside the Mail, they've got Claire Coutinho writing, what would you expect from a party whose leader can't define what a woman is? Town halls accused of virtue signalling. Town halls have been accused of wasting time and taxpayers' money on virtue signalling criticism of the Supreme Court ruling. Researchers found that more than a dozen councils across England have spoken out against the judgment and subsequent guidance from the Equalities Watchdog. So not only are they ignoring the fact that the Supreme Court has made a judgment, they're acting illegally, aren't they?
I mean, what are they doing pushing back on this issue? Why are they focusing their time on this when, as we've touched on earlier, there's a pothole issue clearly in this country,
right.
And yet councils are spending their time saying, we can't possibly enforce this.
No.
I mean, you absolutely can.
Because they're captured, presumably, by the ideology of the left, which will presumably be swept away on May the 7th when all of these council leaders and councillors get swept out of the door by reform.
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, they certainly seem to not have any truck for this. So we'll see how those elections go, and whether there's the change that I think people are wanting.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've actually got that Bridget Phillipson clip, Pooch, which has just come in. We'll give you some time to figure out whether we can play it or not. But it's quite a funny one, so it'd be good if we could.
Okay, one second. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay. No, there's no rush. We can get to it because I can meanwhile segue off to the Sun front page.
Come in now.
You got it now? Okay, let's have a look.
Can a 5-year-old go to school and decide that he wants to be called by a girl's name and that he is a she?
No,
Are you comfortable with that?
No, I haven't got it.
No, he hasn't got it. He's gone early. Pooch has gone a bit early. Don't worry. Right, so we'll come back to it. Front page of the Sun. Latest picture with potholes scourge. Cabinet Minister Tidy Alexander, who happens to be the Secretary of State for Transport, which is not a great example of how well the roads are being fixed up. A pothole took the Transport Secretary's car off the road in a shocking example of the wrecked state of our roads. Heidi Alexander's Mini Cooper had to be towed away after hitting a crater worthy of the moon. even though she's insisted that Labour is giving councils record sums to tackle potholes. Obviously, people aren't spending the money properly, are they?
No, I mean, you just couldn't make this up, really, could you?
No.
The Transport Secretary having a car done in by a pothole. But this is the thing that people always complain about with council services, right? They're not doing the basics at all. Potholes don't get filled, bins don't get collected. Ask the people of Birmingham about that. And yet, so obviously the other day I was talking about the Town Hall rich list, and people always come out and saying, "Oh, why are you making a fuss about this? Of course we need to pay these people lots of money. Look at the jobs they're doing." Well, they're not doing the jobs, are they? If they can't even fill the potholes.
Well, this is the same argument I get from MPs who say, "Well, if you want better MPs, pay them more money." Well, we're already paying them loads of money. They're now getting £110,000 basic salary, on top of which they get to claim probably a couple of £100,000 worth of expenses. So you're talking literally £300,000 a year. And I would, and again, most people would go, all right, it's a big job, it's quite important, you've got lots of pressure on you, you've got to serve many masters, all of that, but at least be decent at it. But they're not any bloody good at it.
Yeah, quite. I mean, we at the TPA, we very much advocate for MP pay rises should be linked to GDP per capita. So if people are getting better off, then okay. They're doing an all right job, so then they can be paid more. Right. But instead, they get they got a cost of living supplement with their pay rise this year. It's just absolutely nuts, and it completely insulates them from what people are actually living through.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly one of the things they don't understand is how much it's costing to put either heating oil into your rural abode if you happen to not be on the electric grid, and even paying your electricity bill and your gas bill and you're filling up your car with petrol. They claim all of that. So it doesn't really matter to them how much it costs because it doesn't actually cost them anything.
No, they're completely isolated from it. And instead, sort of, every regular people who are going out, getting up in the morning, going out to work, paying their taxes, are just getting absolutely done over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we now have the Bridget Phillipson clip. Shall we have a quick look at it?
5-year-old go to school and decide that he wants to be called by a girl's name and that he is a she. Are you comfortable with that?
We've been clear that in primary schools we need to tread with a lot of care.
That didn't actually answer the question, Secretary. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, this was usually where it involves a parent's decision to support their child in that way. So part of the balance here is that, of course, often parents will be supporting.
But the child could just tip up at school, couldn't he or she?
Well, we think this. We think this.
Did you know? Does everyone know at 5 whether they want to be a man or a woman?
Well, that's part of what actually Hilary Cass said in her review, that in allowing children just to consider who they are, to behave in ways that might not be aligned with their sex or their gender. Mm-hmm. So if a boy wants to wear dresses, we should just, if we allow that to work, children will experiment at different points. They will consider who they are. That just taking a watchful approach, not coming down too hard on that, actually reduces what we see in terms of children moving towards a more medicalised model. And the guidance that we've published, Dr. Hilary Cass has welcomed. She thinks it's the right approach in supporting children and their well-being. And I think it would be exceptionally rare for primary schools to be operating that. But I've also been clear that in anything in that space, unless there are very strong safeguarding reasons where a child is at risk of harm, parents should be involved in those important decisions.
I mean, it makes you want to weep, doesn't it?
She's in charge of education.
She's in charge of education. She can't answer a simple question. She cannot apparently put a sentence together which makes any kind of sense in cogent English.
She opens that sense, that answer saying, "Let's be clear on this." She was anything but.
Yeah. But isn't that so... Don't you find that so annoying, though, Benjamin, where you've got these bloody MPs and politicians of all colours and hues and creeds or whatever, and they always start their sentence with, "I've been very clear about this," or "Let me be very clear about this."
Let me be clear on this and not answer your question.
You're now going to fudge the answer.
Yeah.
The idea that 5-year-olds are going to determine what gender they are is ludicrous. And she is frightened of actually saying that. Yeah. She's frightened of saying, listen, Johnny, you're called Johnny. Get back in your box and stop pretending you're a girl and take that dress off.
I mean, I hope it's just that she's frightened about saying it and doesn't actually believe this stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they don't believe in anything. They're so captured by the ideology within which the framework is that they work that they kind of don't want to go outside of it. They're worried, like, if I put my hand slightly outside that framework there,
I might upset these people over here.
You might upset these, that bloke over there in a dress. It's just ludicrous, totally mad. As a child, I was a tomboy until around about 12. Not at any point did I actually want to be a boy, says Twiggy. If, however, I'd grown up with teachers, NHS and government drip-feeding this BS, you should get them out. It's manipulative evil. That's a good one. I used to want to be a boy when I was a kid. They had more fun. Thank goodness I wasn't born in these times, says Margaret. Yeah, I know. Listen, my sister, I would have to say, probably was a bit of a tomboy at times. We used to play football together, from the age of about, when I was from the age of about 7 or 8. She was a couple of years older than me. We would go off to the local park and play football, or then we'd go to play tennis or something like that. But at no point did she ever go, I think I'm a boy. And no point did I go, I think you're a boy. Mike, thank you for knowing what a woman is and speaking up, says Cindy. Absolutely right, Cindy. By the way, we've tracked down your Heron cufflinks, and I will be putting them on at some point soon. Next time I wear a shirt that requires cufflinks, which I'm not doing today, I will put them in and I will tell you. This government, child of politics and wacky races. Says what conspiracy theory? And another super chat from Jane. Pillock, that's a good one. We've been asking you for your localised swear words, right? And please do try and keep it clean. Let's not try and do something that's too terrible. Here's one, twat spangle. That's good, from Jane. Where's that from, Jane? I'd like to know, because apparently there is a new study being done at the University of Sheffield in which they're trying to create a map of how English is spoken at a time when they say the language is evolving faster than ever. Because there are different words in different parts of the world. I remember, and Donald MacLeod is a great exponent of this up in Glasgow, bust is a word that he says, which means drunk, effectively. And it apparently explains why you are like a bust ball. And then, don't ask me how they got there. And then ball bag is another one in Scotland, which is quite good. And they've got mild examples from Merseyside here. Arias, apparently. Raj Bampot from Scotland. Mardy arse from Yorkshire and the Midlands. And proper Raji bastard from the northeast of England. Are you from anywhere sort of exotic, Benjamin? You sound like you're from the home counties.
I am. I'm a Kent boy.
Kent boy. Yeah. So anything Kent that you say particularly you don't say in London?
Not particularly, no. No, it's all quite standard.
Is
and
it?
Perhaps not fit for 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, we can run it past Pooch and see what he thinks. I'm going to ask you just to stand down for a moment, stay exactly where you are, because we're going to come back to you in a second, because we've got lots and lots of stories to talk to you about, including Rachel Reeves going over to Washington, D.C., and, of course, the BBC, who are apparently poised to cut 2,000 jobs. It's a good start, I think I would say. How about you cut 4,000 jobs? In fact, cut 6,000 jobs. In fact, cut as many jobs as you like in the BBC and shut the whole bleeding place down. Not least because of their anti-Semitic take on the situation in the Middle East. Let's talk now to Elon Levy, who's, of course, a former spokesperson for the Israeli government, now podcaster. I dare say you would agree with me, Elon, that, a few thousand jobs being culled at the BBC is nothing more than a good start.
It's a good thing if they cut a few thousand jobs, as long as they added a few people to the fact-checking department there.
In the Middle East, the blockade, which it's sort of the blockade from nowhere, isn't it? It's the blockade that nobody understands. It's the blockade that nobody quite knows how it's working or who's in charge of it. Pressure on both sides to extend a ceasefire. There's talk this morning, I understand, of communications at least being had between Iran and the White House. What are you hearing?
There is cautious optimism in Israel that we're beginning a peace process with Lebanon. When you think about it, it's kind of crazy that Lebanon doesn't have peace with Israel, but Lebanon is effectively occupied by Iran, right? Through Hezbollah, its Iranian proxy army. So Israeli and Lebanese ambassadors in Washington held face-to-face talks this week. President Trump says that Israeli and Lebanese leaders will speak today for the first time in 34 years. The Lebanese, for what it's worth, are saying they have no idea what President Trump is talking about. But the sides beginning talks for what Israel hopes will be real peace, not the kind of ceasefire that Keir Starmer is calling for, that would just leave Hezbollah free to rearm under the noses of the useless Irish peacekeepers, but genuine peace in which Hezbollah will finally be dismantled by the Lebanese government. And I don't think we should settle for anything less. We cannot have any more half-baked measures that keep sweeping the problem under the rug. I saw Keir Starmer speaking in Parliament saying, Hezbollah must disarm, Israel must lay off its attacks. Well, Hezbollah's not listening to the British government, is it? And that leaves Israel to dismantle Hezbollah itself and hope that talks will lead to the Lebanese government finally clamping down and doing it itself.
Well, I have to tell you, Elon, and it comes as no surprise to you, that not even the British people are listening to the British government, never mind Hezbollah or the Lebanese. I mean, nobody's listening to Keir Starmer because he talks absolute nuts and balderdash. But what has been happening in terms of, Israel has been assailed from all sides for many, many years, decades, you might say, much of it bankrolled by the Iranian regime. Has Iran, in the midst of all of the smoke and mirrors of this conflict, has it stopped funding Hezbollah? Has it stopped funding Hamas? Is it still doing it?
On the contrary, Mike, last year, Iran doubled its funding to Hezbollah. After Israel blew up most of its terrorist army with those exploding beepers, Iran doubled its funding to Hezbollah to $2 billion. It's not trying to cut its losses. It's doubling down on its stranglehold on Lebanon, abusing that beautiful country as a launch pad for attacks against Israel. Let's recap where we are. Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy army based in Lebanon. Its goal is to turn Lebanon into another province of the Islamic Republic of Iran. It used Lebanon to fire missiles, rockets, and drones at Israeli families. We're talking about homes that are right on the border, and you have Hezbollah terrorists who can see people sitting on their balconies with their naked eye. And what Israel is doing now is, first of all, pushing Hezbollah away. So there is no imminent threat of an incursion. And we'd see October 7th style atrocities if Hezbollah could get in and kill people and kidnap them and commit acts of sexual violence. Create a buffer zone, push them away so they can't attack people sitting on their front porch using anti-tank missiles, and give the people in northern Israel some breathing space so they have at least a few seconds to run for rocket shelter, and a rocket attack wouldn't be imminent. So what Israel is trying to do is two things now. It's saying, Lebanon, you have completely failed to dismantle Hezbollah. You promised to do it. You didn't manage to do it. We don't care whether you didn't try, you didn't care, not our problem. We're pushing Hezbollah away so that the people in northern Israel can be safe. And we're putting pressure on the Lebanese government to dismantle Hezbollah. And the Lebanese government is desperate to avoid a confrontation with Hezbollah because, hey, they don't want to fight. Hezbollah is maybe a more powerful militia than the Lebanese army itself. It still has popularity inside Lebanon, and the Lebanese government is scared to pick a fight with a well-armed, well-trained, well-funded Iranian proxy militia.
Yes, and it also has a political arm, doesn't it? So that in what goes for the Lebanese government, you have representatives of Hezbollah who are genuinely kind of posing, if you like, as Democrats, posing as members of a government or members of a political organisation at least, who are not terrorists. So how do you deal with them?
Hezbollah has 2 ministers in the Lebanese government. This is crazy. I mean, imagine having, a coalition government in the UK in which the Greens, I guess the closest equivalent to Hezbollah, have their own private militia that they're using to attack a foreign country.
I can do better than that. You can give you Sinn Féin, who won independence for Northern Ireland in terms of having a separate government, a government organisation, and then won the right to run it. And so Sinn Féin, many of whom were not necessarily involved in actual armed insurrection, but certainly they know people who were, are now running the government.
Right. I guess that's a much better comparison. But that just shows you how deeply the Iranian regime has infiltrated Lebanon and how difficult it is for the Lebanese people who want to cut their country free from the Islamic Republic of Iran when they're having to deal with these religious fundamentalists who are determined to use Lebanon as a launchpad for attacks against Israel. And after the beginning of peace talks this week, Israel says, we think we see eye to eye with the Lebanese government on the need to dismantle Hezbollah. And what is important now is that the world keep up its pressure on Lebanon to dismantle Hezbollah and not give them any opportunity, any excuse to retreat into the hedgerows and allow Hezbollah to rearm. And by the way, that is exactly what Keir Starmer and other Western leaders are doing. When Keir Starmer calls for an immediate ceasefire, when he calls for an immediate de-escalation, He's not solving the problem of Hezbollah. He's leaving Israeli families within immediate shooting range of Hezbollah terrorists who are going to continue rearming under the noses of the useless French, Irish, and Chinese peacekeepers. He is freezing a problem that Britain's not going to have to deal with, Israelis on the ground are going to have to deal with. And it dooms Lebanon to being a failed state. And I think it's no coincidence that these talks are now happening under American mediation. And the French are not happy. They're trying to push their way into the room. They see Lebanon as part of their backyard. They want to mediate the talks. And the Lebanese are not too eager for the French to be involved because they see that this constant pressure to basically leave Hezbollah in power has doomed them to an endless cycle of war. And that's the cycle we've got to end now.
Yeah. And finally, Elon, what's your sense of where Iran is at the moment? You know, do they want to have an end to this? Would they like to see some kind of deal done with America, or do you think they're just going to dig their heels in and continue to, blockade the straits and basically torment the West, if you like, with their kind of stymie on oil prices and all that?
Yeah, the Iranian regime is trying to use its only card, which is to hold the whole global economy hostage now through the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump trying to take that away from them with the counter blockade, which I think really was a genius masterstroke in taking that leverage away from them. But look, the Iranian regime represents a triple threat. It's not just the nuclear program. It's the ballistic missiles, which can reach the UK, of course, and the proxy armies like Hezbollah and Hamas. Any deal is going to have to make sure that Iran's path to a nuclear bomb is completely cut off. It means removing all of the highly enriched uranium from Iran, making sure they cannot enrich any more uranium so they can't secretly move to a bomb in future. The Gulf countries, the ones that are very disappointed with the way the West folded now, will also want to make sure that Iran doesn't have the missiles that it used to fire at Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Saudi Arabia. So there's a lot for the Americans to do to pressure Iran. It doesn't look like the Iranians want to end that triple threat. I mean, that is the Islamic Republic of Iran. If it's not threatening the whole region with nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and proxy armies, it's just not the same Iran. But a huge challenge for the United States. And right now, the Iranians seem to be totally isolated. The Americans have taken really the only leverage they have.
Okay. Elon, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning. Elon Levy, former government spokesman for the Israeli government, and of course now podcaster in Israel, in the Middle East. The Middle East situation doesn't appear to be solving itself anyway, but there is talk of a new conversation going on between Donald Trump and the White House and the Iranians. So we'll see over the course of the next 12 to 24 hours how that goes. Cliff has sent this in on the subject of East End swearing, because East End of London, of course, that would be. Cowson is one that I used to hear many, many times when I was growing up. Cowson. And also feck and fecking. We can say that because, Pooch, that's not bad, is it? What about this one? Sama is a virtuoso of the pink oboe, says Trevor. Yes, very good. Very elaborately said.
Don't hear this much. This is a good one.
How about this? Gordon Bennett. Yeah, you don't hear that at all. Where did that come from, by the way, Gordon Bennett? I wonder what the etymology of that was. Gordon Bennett, people used to say. So listen, give us your localised sort of swear words. Wazzock, says Diane, in Durham. Is that from Durham, perhaps, Wazzock? Plank is something that I came up with, but it wasn't my invention. It was a word actually born out of a film that was made years and years ago, starring a guy called Eric Sykes, who some of you might remember, called The Plank. And it was about a guy called Eric Sykes who wandered around, and he was a handyman of some kind or other, but he was an idiot. And he carried his plank around and kept bumping into people with it. So that was kind of where that all came from. We're in the company of Benjamin Elks from the Taxpayers Alliance. Benjamin, a couple of other stories for us to talk about. A lot of BBC mentions this morning. Scott Mills on the front pages of a few papers looking ashen-faced, out walking his dog. Yep. But also the BBC sacking 2,000 people, apparently, which I imagine will be music to your ears at the CPA.
We'll wait and see as to if it actually happens.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the BBC just stumbles from crisis to crisis.
It does,
really,
doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
You do wonder who's running the show there, because it doesn't appear to have any kind of leadership at all, does it? I mean, they've just appointed a new Director General. Tim Davies gone, and this new guy's come in, who apparently, amongst his previous jobs, worked at Trinity Mirror. Shortly after I left, actually, so I can't give you any detail. But people say to me, "Oh, he's quite a good guy," and went off to work for Google. quite a nice guy. He'll probably get eaten alive at the BBC because there is this kind of culture of, well, if you're not from the BBC, you don't really get it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, you need someone who is going to have the backbone to come in and really shake it up. Because the way it runs at the moment is completely unacceptable. The idea that it's a representative national broadcaster is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yet everyone is forced to pay for it if they want to watch any kind of live television.
Yeah, well,
it's absolutely nuts. It's got this funding model is dying. It's way past its use by date. It's time to scrap the licence fee.
I think it is. I think most people, right-thinking people, agree with that because people consume their television now in very, very different ways. I mean, we have these conversations all the time, but not just with politicians, but with ordinary media types as well. That what we're doing is very much the kind of the way forward. It's independent broadcasting. It's done. I'm not going to say on a shoestring, Pooch, because that would be wrong. Because obviously I wouldn't work for a shoestring, and neither would you. But the point is that it is not the BBC. If this was a BBC show, right? I reckon they would have at least 40 people working on it, wouldn't they?
Efficiently.
Do you remember we put it out actually last week? It was the final Channel 4 news show by what's that woman's name? Who's
Carol.
No, she's gone off to work for Sky now. The blonde sort of corkscrewy-haired woman who does a show on Times Radio as well. Anyway, she put out a picture. My final show at Channel 4 News, and here's the team. And the team was full of something like 39 people. And there was a picture of, this is an hour-long show. And you just think, here we are sitting here doing, every morning we do nearly 3 hours. Yeah. And it's me and him and you, basically. That's it. There's not, if we said...
Charlotte.
Charlotte, yeah. But I mean, the point is that, in terms of who's actually physically here, Charlotte could be working for Channel 4, in a remote place, booking guests. They may indeed have booking guest bookers who are remote as well. But what you wouldn't get here is if you go, all right, should we get everybody out from the gallery to see who we all are? There isn't anyone. No. What you see is what you get.
Yeah, but this is the thing, isn't
Kathy Newman's her name, right? That's her.
Yeah,
Kathy Newman.
This is the thing. The BBC and like Channel 4, the BBC especially is completely isolated from any kind of market pressure. Yeah. It's guaranteed funding through the license fee. So they don't have to operate efficiently, and they you get these huge production teams. But ultimately, look, if their output was worthwhile and people wanted it, it would have no problem surviving in the private sector in the same way any other broadcaster does.
Yeah. So the BBC say they're going to cut up to 1 in 10 roles. So if they're going to lose 2,000 people, that means they employ 200,000.
1 in 10 roles and 2,000 people.
Yeah, well, 1 in 10 roles, but it's 2,000 people. So now you talk, so multiply it by,
20,000 people then working for the Beeb.
20,000 people. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, it's enormous. It's this.
I think that's right because I think I've seen reports where they've got something like 25,000 people working for them, something like that.
Yeah, it's huge numbers. Yeah. And for what? What do people really get from the BBC that they can't get elsewhere, can't get cheaper elsewhere?
Yeah. Apparently, they've done a survey inside the BBC in which they say only a third of their employees have confidence in senior management. 70% of employers found that trusted leadership and pride in working for the broadcaster has fallen in the past year. However, how about this, right? This is good. Almost 3/4 said that they would recommend the BBC as a great place to work. I'm sure they would.
My bosses are terrible and it's an awful place, but please come and work here.
Yeah, I know. Incredible. Absolutely. Just to show you how useless the BBC is, should we play that clip, Pooch, of the new? They've got a new show out there which is called Proper Ladies, right? Check this out and ask yourself the question: why is the BBC going down the pan?
It's almost been 10 minutes. If no teacher shows up, we're legally allowed to leave.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies.
Oh my day, Salma. Do you have nothing better to do?
When a sister salams you, you're supposed to say,
Wa alaikum assalam. Get a job. A real job, unique.
Another picture of modern Britain. Isn't that great? Unbelievable stuff. Front page of the Times, Benjamin. Yeah. Britain could face shortages of chicken, pork and other supermarket goods this summer if the war in Iran continues. This reminds me of the sort of rubbish they used to print during COVID. You're going to run out of toilet rolls, everybody goes out and buys them. You're going to run out of pasta, everybody goes out and buys it. You're going to run out of rice, better go and buy some. Farming and hospitality probably will be hit earliest and hardest, given that CO2 is used to help increase the shelf life of food, such as salad, packaged meats and baked goods. We'll be talking to a farmer actually very shortly about all of this, so we'll find out from him if that's true. But I'm not a fan of this kind of scaremongering type story where people are told, oh, it's going to get really, really bad. You're going to run out of stuff. You better queue for the petrol. You better queue outside the Tesco's for for your daily shop. I don't like it.
No, and it is kind of unhelpful in that it does prompt this sort of panic buying from people as well. I mean, there's not much point panic buying pork or beef or what have you. It's just going to go off if you don't get through it. But
I mean, you could put it in the freezer.
You could, yeah.
But but I'm with you. I just think that the worst case scenario stuff that a lot of the media gets involved in, because they love doing it, don't they? They just really, really like scaring people and kind of giving you an ultimatum. To say that, you might have to change your habits, you might have to get, why people stockpile cans of beans, I've never known. Because, of course, I suppose you might say it's a nutritious meal if you've got nothing else to eat. But, the government's analysis on this says the biggest revelation of the work behind the scenes to prepare Britain for prolonged hostilities and the impact on supplies and energy costs. I mean, can you imagine what Keir Starmer and the government would be like if actually things did turn out to become slightly desperate? They would love it, wouldn't they? They would love to put the police out and
push everyone onto
cracking people's heads with batons and all that
stuff.
We saw it in Epsom last night. Suddenly, despite the Palestinian protests that have been going on for the best part of 2 years, monitored by the police, who say, we're not going to arrest anyone, we're just going to film them and then we might arrest them later. As soon as they heard there was a sort of protest in Epsom about a rape that may or may not involve people from ethnic minorities being the assailants, they all turn up in riot gear. And they're ready to crack a few heads.
Extraordinary to scenes, people who are out having sort of very peaceful protests, actually, for once. The show of force from the police there is just absolutely extraordinary.
Way over the top. Finally, apparently redheads who have always been teased may be proud to discover that their natural selection has deemed their hair colour a trait worth passing on. And with increased regularity over the past 10,000 years, a study has found that human beings are still evolving at a much faster rate than previously thought. Red hair, susceptibility to celiac disease and narrow waists have become more common in our recent history. So apparently if you are a redhead, you shouldn't be ashamed anymore. I'm not sure why you should have been ashamed in the first place, but apparently it's a trait worth having.
Apparently so. Yes.
William Yarwood's a redhead, isn't he?
He is.
And you're here in his stead. Is he taking some time off?
Yeah, he's off on leave. I think he's on a stag do.
He's not been investigated by the police or anything, is he?
Not to my knowledge.
We've got a little joke about him, but that's another story. Anyway, listen, great to see you, Benjamin. Thank you very much indeed. Benjamin Elk there from the Taxpayers Alliance. A fantastic study this week done, an investigation into what we call the Town Hall Rich List. And if you want to find out exactly where your council tax is going, I recommend that you go and have a look. Tell people where they can find it.
Taxpayersalliance.com, you'll find the rich list on there. And you can look up your own council and see how many people are getting over 100 grand.
Look up your own council and be prepared for a shock, by the way, because these people are paying themselves an absolute fortune while milking you to death. Speaking of which, and I don't mean dairy milk, let us now talk to our very much man on the scene. Sorry, got to do news first. Sorry, before we go to our friendly farmer, let's talk to Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Keir Starmer has firmly told Donald Trump he will not yield to pressure over the Iran war, vowing British troops will not join the conflict despite threats to scrap the 2025 UK-US trade deal. Ooh! Get her. UK inflation fears and prompts an IMF growth downgrade for Britain. The government is preparing contingency plans for potential food shortages and energy impacts from the Middle East turmoil, while defence spending comes under fresh scrutiny from former NATO chiefs. In other news, Prince Harry has spoken openly about the struggles of fatherhood during his Australia tour. Sorry, boring. Let's move on. Business deals continue amid economic uncertainty, including a major insurance takeover and a new Boeing military helicopter contract. Please remember to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything and it really helps the show. Laters, tigers.
Oh, sorry, Pooch. I don't wish to be unkind, but is Edward Hughes all right?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
What's he doing? He's wearing a yellow jacket and a pink hat.
The wife's left him.
I know the wife's left him, and I know that things might be a little difficult for him, and he may have been, or may not have been, consorting with Fiona Cloud. I don't know. But can you tell him, please, that he can't present the news dressed like some kind of circus clown?
This is what people are saying.
You know, Edward Hughes finally snapped, says Plant Seeds. Yeah, what's going on with that? I don't think we can have that. We might have to take him off the air again.
I don't know if Cindy likes it.
She says he looks cute. I don't know, but my sense is that we need to have a word with him, and if he can't get rid of that outfit before the next bulletin, I don't think we can run it. Honestly, I think we're dealing with some serious mental issues here, mental health issues, and you have to be very careful about how you deal with those. But I'm just not sure he's all there. I think his wife leaving him has kind of sent him over the edge. Anyway, let's see. If it's possible to do a little investigating before the next news bulletin, that would be very helpful. That would be kind. Thank you. Now, let us talk to Clive Bailey, who is a friendly neighbourhood farmer. He's a founder, owner of the Farming Forum. He is from the My Direct Driller magazine as well, Soil Farmer of the Year 2016. Obviously, being a farmer in this day and age is a pretty difficult job. With the government coming at you from all sides, trying to take as much money off you as possible and stop you from being able to pass on your farm onto your family. Clive, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you. Just reading on the front page of the Times, you may disagree with me. I don't like to read stories like this where the media kind of try and warn you that there's shortages of chicken coming, shortages of pork coming. Get out there and start hoarding stuff. I mean, it's not helpful, is it?
No, it's not actually. It's refreshing to hear you say that. The media not kind of pushing that panic buying, which that leads to the problems, doesn't it? There wasn't fuel shortages, there wasn't toilet roll shortages. It was the panic buying that led to that.
Yeah.
And this is the crux of the problem, really, and where kind of current government's just not really understanding farming. The events in the Middle East right now, they will affect the food that we have months away. Not tomorrow. There's a lag on farming. The crops, what's on the shelves now, the decisions to buy the inputs, the fuel, the fertilizers that went into producing those kind of the chicken or the bread that's on the shelf right now. That was all bought 12 months ago. So they've got to start thinking further ahead. So there is potential for huge problems going forward, but there will be a lag on that. It's decisions I'm making right now on my farm about buying my fuel, buying my fertilizer. Do I plant crops at all this autumn? And where we are at the moment is, the viability of that, the economics of that, we don't stack up. I'm better to fallow my entire farm than plant crops of wheat right now. Now that will have an effect on next harvest. So there's time to sort this out, but we need incentives, we need guarantees as farmers to make sure that we're not just taking ridiculous gambles on prices rising. That's just the way it works. It's seasonal. We're not like a widget factory where we kind of put materials in today and get a product out tomorrow. There's a 10-month or 12-month lag all the time on what we do as farmers.
Right. And do you get a sense that there are people in Downing Street and Whitehall, for example, who have no bloody clue about what the countryside even actually looks like? When you see Steve Reed, who used to run Lambeth Council, one of the worst run councils in the entire country, putting on a pair of sort of, clean green Wellington boots. He'd never seen any mud in his life and, wanders about and goes, we were on the side of the farmers. And, well, no, you're not, because you basically put them under threat that you're going to take their farms away from them, that you're going to tax them into oblivion. I mean, has anything changed? I mean, they haven't changed that policy, have they?
No. I mean, it's not a sense of it, Mike. I think we all know now that that's the case. They haven't got a clue. I mean, in Steve Reed's tenure, he visited, 2 or 3 farms. They don't have a clue. They don't appreciate, and nothing demonstrated that better than Rachel Reeves' 2024 budget, didn't it? With what they did with agricultural property and business property relief. Yeah. And we warned at the time. We said as farmers, and I think, to be honest, we kind of stole the headlines a little bit about it being something that really affected farmers, which are quite obviously, people can see, are multi-generational businesses. But the fact is, as we've seen with JCB, Bamford saying this week that, threatening to kind of like move the business abroad. This runs far deeper into the economy than just farming. These multi-generational small family businesses, which employ by far the majority of people in this country, are all questioning, what are they doing? Why base themselves in the UK anymore? Or should they just shut the doors completely? And I think that's happening in a lot of cases as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in terms of the sort of international food supply chain, if you like, I suppose, and we talk a lot, and we hear a lot about the kind of, what's the phrase? It's the where you can just about kind of wait for something to come to you and be there tomorrow. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Is that changed as a result of this sort of government's policy, or are we still in that same place?
No, we've got to start, and governments have got to start considering food security as part of our national security, just like defence and everything else. I mean, I'm third generation farmer. My grandfather started farming just after the end of the Second World War, when rationing was still going on. And I think within that 3 generations, we've kind of lost track. Supermarkets have made it, we take food for granted, and we're an island nation, and what's going on, current geopolitics, what's going on in the Middle East. You've got, we're talking, I mean, the news, I'm sure you've talked about it endlessly, about squeezes and energy crisis, but food is energy. We put fuel in our cars and we put food, calories, it's all measured in calories. It's the same thing. Even that fuel in the cars. I mean, and this is where farmers could really step up and help if we had the right government policy and incentive to help. When you look at E10 in your petrol, that's ethanol, bioethanol. That's made from wheat and from corn. We can grow oil, canola, oilseed rape, the yellow crop that you see in fields. That's oil. So we're part of this energy picture, and we could, if we had the right incentives, or at least the guarantees, we weren't going to cost us money or lose money doing it, which is where we are, where we sit right now. Could help, and a forward-thinking government would be considering that and thinking, okay, where else can we get our energy from? There's opportunity here, but they're not, as you said earlier, they don't understand it. That's absolutely cast iron clear to me now. They're not talking to, real farmers with genuine industry experience, shop floor experience, to know and be able to offer. Farmers are immensely practical people. We can fix things with baler twine, cable ties, and sticky back plastic. We can help in this situation. Yet no one's asking us to. In fact, we're disincentivized to right now by, you say, punitive taxes like APR and BPR, which fundamentally has made me question the entire future of my farm, which I've grown into a good, viable business, paid a lot of tax over the years, contributed towards GDP, employed many people, whatever. I've got children that would continue into that. But right now, it would be crazy for me to encourage them into the same industry. So it will probably die with me. This is the problem, isn't it?
We've got a government who seems to want to punish anyone who's kind of entrepreneurial, who wants to punish anyone who's making money. They go, oh, you're making money, and well, let's just tax you some more, because we want to give it to some kids whose parents can't be asked to actually give them any food in the morning. And you kind of go, what's wrong with you? Why are you punishing the people who are the achievers in this world in order to pay for the people who are not? It makes no sense.
Yeah, and you can't build an economy on that, can you? I mean, it's basic. You don't need to be chancellor. It's basic economics. I mean, what does this country do anymore? What do we actually produce? What is our economy based on? I mean, if you look back in history, you'd say, like, I don't know, the economy of Sheffield was based on steel, or Wales was built on mining, all those kind of things. If you actually step back and ask yourself right now, today, what is the British economy built on? I think it's banking and debt, which quite frankly looks to me a little bit like a big Ponzi pyramid scheme. It's not really a product. There's nothing real there. So we're depending on imports. We're just offsetting, things like the excuses around, kind of reducing carbon and pollution and stuff. All we tend to do with that, particularly in no better example in agriculture, where all those problems, they don't go away because we don't produce it in the UK anymore. They just get offset to, Eastern Europe or China instead. So it's self-harm. And if it continues, well, I fear for what my children inherit, kind of thing, not in a farm term, in terms of an economy and a wonderful country to live in.
Absolutely. And in terms of, without, prying into your own sort of personal finances, if you like, I mean, how difficult has it become since the Labour government has been in for you personally to kind of make ends meet?
From a pure farming point of view, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if I looked, we're quite a large farm business, very efficient. We've kind of innovated and done everything you're supposed to do to try to grow, improve, and so I'd say we sit there very much in the kind of top percentile of efficient farm businesses. There's not much more I could do to improve things. But from a farming point of view, it's dire. It would be break even is a result right now. I mean, I've diversified. I have other rural, like many farmers really, other businesses contribute to us rural economy, employ a lot of people. But just like farming, they're squeezed. Everything's squeezed right now. But in truth, that's really where what's paying my bills right now, where the income comes from. And in many cases, that diversification route just becomes a way you're subsidising an expensive farming hobby. A point comes, right, when you just sit back and go, well, why would I do that? Why not just shut that farm down or fallow that farm? And that's where we are this autumn. Right now, if you look at fertiliser prices caused by liquid natural gas price hikes, you look at that versus the kind of current prices ahead of harvest for crops like wheat, beans, oilseed rape, oats, those kind of things. Right now, if I plant this autumn, I'm doing so knowingly at a loss. I'm better to just give the guys on the farm a few months off and say, let's take a year out. We won't make any money, but at least we'll lose less.
Yeah, and that's a terrible place to be, isn't it? Are you likely to be involved in, if there is one, a sort of a trip to London? Because I'm hearing that there might be a farmers' protest coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm also hearing there's going to be a sort of big farmers' day out in London, I think, which Nigel Farage is maybe taking part in on I think it's St George's Day next week. Any sort of inclination to join that sort of thing?
Well, I was one of the guys that organised the original 19th November protest in Westminster where, well, depends who you listen to, but maybe 50,000 or so people turned up outside Downing Street and made it quite clear that the APR, BPR changes were just not going to affect 500 people. They were going to affect, showed the numbers that was a lot bigger problem. I've been involved in various things, revisiting back to London again since. And personally, I feel that we've made the point there a little bit. I think we've made it quite clear. And it has, let's give the government a little bit. They U-turn just before Christmas to some extent and increase those thresholds. That did make a difference. It has taken quite a lot of farms out of a danger zone, but it still goes nowhere near enough to kind of safeguard the majority of viable farm businesses, multi-generational businesses, where they're still in a situation where that kind of succession just isn't possible. So they need to go far further with this. I've heard rumours about truck driver protests and whatever. I've been maintaining right all the way through this whole government that if you want change, you need to keep the public on side. You need to keep people on side. I don't think farmers want to kind of cause a public problem, make them late for work or hospital appointments, that kind of thing. That's a bit silly. And also, reason you've not seen the French and European and even now what's going on in Southern Ireland style protests in the UK is the 2023 Public Order Act in the UK makes it very difficult for that kind of action to take place. I read many comments in media things and magazine articles, TV, radio, all sorts, where people say, the farmers need to kind of start blocking the roads and being more French. The truth of the matter is, if I or anybody else stood there and kind of said this out loud, I think they'd be knocking on my door and I'd be arrested within hours. So I don't think you're going to see that kind of action in the UK. Partly because I think we're a bit more Queensberry rules in the UK as well. The general public, the non-farming communities, we want them on our side. We want them to help us. I think they often have seen farmers as, hey, you guys have got tractors. They're like tanks. You can stand up this government. You can make the point for us. But, as much as this is a big problem for my family, the farm, the business, and many other farmers, it's not worth going to prison for, Mike.
No, of course not. But that, unfortunately, is more of a reflection on the bleeding government than it is on you guys, because, I think you would find an awful lot of people would be a great deal of support for you, and you're getting it even as you speak to us, and we're watching what's happening in Ireland, which obviously is a different country and a different place. But listen, we wish you well, and you've been getting a lot of, as I say, a lot of big hellos from our audience anyway. So Clive, hopefully we'll get you back on at some point soon, and hopefully you can get to a place where break even isn't just an acceptable way of living. It'd be nice to actually make a few quid.
Everyone's entitled to make a living. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Tom.
Dave Bailey, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. What a great guy. A fantastic advocate for farming as well in this country. And lots of you giving him your support. Lots of really good messages coming in. I don't know if we can have another look at some of those, Pooch, in terms of what people have been saying about Clive, because I've never spoken to Clive before, but what a great guest, says Tuckers. A man certainly clued up. Absolutely right. He certainly knows his onions, doesn't he, as you say, and indeed probably knows his French onions and indeed maybe his spring onions. Lots of you have got good things to say. Here's one, right, which has come in as a bit of a shock to me, from Suzanne. Charlotte's passed this on to me. Why do you all seem to dismiss Charlotte rather, when she's an integral part of the show and plays an important role in your show operating? I don't think I've dismissed Charlotte ever, have I? I mean, in fact, we not only that, we big her up all the time. And in fact, she's just done a great sort of what we used to call a B-roll of all the guests, good guests that have been on this show, which we might play out a bit later on. And she actually gets to speak on it as well. She gets to hear her voice. Yeah. You know, with Pooch, you hear Pooch's voice. It's like the voice of God coming from the other side of the room, but you never see him. With Charlotte, you don't often hear her voice. And so you might be especially thrilled to get that going on. We've got a poll going on at the moment. Rachel Reeves has gone off to the United States of America. Front page of The Guardian has got her dissing Donald Trump and having a go at the President of the United States of America and saying that he's got no plan for the Iran war, which has pissed him off, actually, for want of a better word. And he's gone, do you know what? I'm getting so fed up with Britain and their politicians that I might just pull the trade deal. You know, well done, Rach. So not only have you ruined our economy, not only have you put loads and loads of people on the dole, not only have you started rewarding people for having no money and taking money from people who actually do, graft and work hard for a living, you've now possibly ruined the special relationship, which is already ruined by Keir Starmer, of course, but worse than that, ruined more by you. Now, so we've got a poll which says basically Reeves is off to the USA, Richard III, of course, as we call her. Where should she be going? And here are the choices. Bosworth Field, for those of you who are history buffs, you'll know exactly what that's about. My horse, a kingdom for a horse. The Straits of Hormuz, or possibly the Gays of Hormuz. Legoland, 30% of you think she should go there. This is actually quite a tight poll. Or a Leicester car park. You don't need to be told why we've got a Leicester car park there, do you? 43% if you think that's where she should go. That, of course, was famously where the bones and the remains of Richard III were found, despite the fact that it was thought that he had been somehow... I think it was thought that he was buried in the Tower of London or something, wasn't it? We found out just this week that apparently if you're on Universal Credit, you can go to the Tower of London for £4 with your family of 4. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely unbelievable. Basically, if you don't come from this country or you have no interest in going to a job in this country, you get treated better than those of us who do actually graft for a living, which is extraordinary. And we're going to go now over to Belgium, I believe. Christian Drogan is going to join us. He is, of course, our man with his eye on the asylum-seeking scumbags waiting over on the other side of the channel to come here. Christian, great to see you. I can see in the background you've got some tanks behind you.
I'm in France, Mike. I'm in France, in Dunkirk.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm in the Dunkirk migrant jungle, and I'm about to take you for a little live tour through, which is it's probably a live exclusive that's being brought to you by Watchman. I'm going to just head into the camp now. I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to just take you through and talk you through what I can see and what's in front of me. Wow. I just want to make you aware that obviously this live exclusive is quite a dangerous one. There's blokes in the woods. With machine guns that could kill me at the press of a finger. So I'm just going to turn the camera around and talk you through what I can see.
Okay.
So,
have you got anybody with you there, Christian? Are you on your own?
No, I'm riding solo on this one. So
wow.
It's obviously what you've got. You've got all the living quarters here.
Yeah.
These stretch all throughout the woods. There'll be people in these tents right now, but the migrants don't wake up too early. So what you've got here is you've got a little hut. So what they do is they cook and eat in these huts, and then when it's raining, they come and chill together. Yeah. As you can see, they're not exactly clean people.
God, it's filthy, isn't it?
There's feces everywhere, and the smell's not too great either, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take you further down.
It doesn't look like there's many people there. Where would these guys be then? You think they're down by the beach trying to jump on a boat?
No, most of them will be asleep in the tents right now. As I sort of make my way through to this other section, you'll see quite a lot of activity where all the NGOs are based. So I'm just going to walk through now, but.
This is fantastic, Christian. This is absolutely fantastic. I mean, people don't get to see this at all, and they get to see it right here, right now, live, as it's happening. Thank you. Carry on.
Yeah, there's some migrants there. Well, I'll try and get some on the camera as well. And again, another little hut. Yeah. Hello, mate. How you doing? You okay? Yeah, someone in the tent there.
I mean, all those tents look as if they're sort of brand new, as issued by some NGO, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hi mate, how are you doing? So these are migrants, obviously living in the jungle.
Yeah. A couple of women there.
Yeah, it looks like they're just having a bit of a wash and what have you. So you've got another hut there. So basically, what happens in these little encampments is that you'll have sort of a camp master, and he will then arrange for certain sections to get on a boat. Now, every single person in this camp, in the jungle, in the whole jungle, every single person is aiming to get to Britain. That's the whole reason why they are here. So, just again, look at all that trash. It's never ending.
Can you just look at that trash and see what is it? What's in there? What exactly are they throwing away there?
Well, you've got Red Bulls, you've got a crate of Heineken there, shopping trolleys that have probably been discarded. What looks like, all sorts, clothes and chairs.
It's horrible, isn't
it? It's awful, to be honest. It's awful. So
would you describe this as, is it farmland? Is it who would own this land? Would you say?
So it's a bit of council land, almost like from. So it's like council land over ahead of me towards the coastline. There's a big, what I think is either a nuclear power plant and an oil refinery.
Okay.
So I'm starting to get quite a few looks now. As long as they keep the guns in the tents, I'm all right.
I mean, when you say machine guns, have you seen guns? Have you heard them firing the guns?
Oh, I've heard the shotguns, the pistols, and the AK-47s. We've had the last time I was here when I lived in the camp undercover. We had the we had the sounds tested out by an expert, and they were live rounds, and he told us exactly what guns they were. So I'm not going to lie, adrenaline's pumping now. I'm going to turn the camera back round. I'm in the sort of NGO section, central, and there's probably going to be a few unhappy people with being here. How are you doing, mate? Want to say hello? Yeah, say hello.
Hello.
What's your plan? What are you planning to do? You want to go into the UK? You go to UK on boats?
No.
No, so yeah.
Wow.
Hello. So now we're in the market section now. And these are the market traders.
Right.
So you can obviously,
are they selling stuff?
So, what's this? What's this? Peter, say hello.
Yeah.
Say hello. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry if the footage is a little bit shaky, but the hands are as well.
No, mate. Listen, this is fabulous.
So, hello, mate. How are you doing?
This is award-winning stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. These are all market traders, and what these are doing is effectively they're working for the people smugglers, and they are trying to earn some money to get on the boats.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure who the customers are, if they're selling to each other or what. That's something that I never really got to. But there's no charities around at the minute. Here's a nice little shop. What can we buy here? We've got Fantas, water, biscuits. Everyone covers the face when you come.
I mean, I don't know why they're bothering covering their faces, because nobody cares. If they come to Britain, they just get on a dinghy and they get off the other side. Nobody gives a damn what they look like, do they?
Absolutely. Even when they photograph getting on the dinghy and driving the dinghy, there's not many of the dinghy drivers who are prosecuted.
Yeah.
So since I was here last time, there's been a load of toilets installed.
Okay.
So they weren't here last time. So
that's something. And that road that you're standing on, is that a main road sort of to
So
anywhere?
this is a main road. Yeah, this is a main road that goes through the jungle, and it goes down towards that oil refinery I was talking about.
Okay.
I mean, the stench right now is unbelievable. Well, yeah, just had someone thrown at me. So,
is that like basically sort of a toilet trench, if you like?
Yeah, I've just had something thrown at me, so that wasn't good. Hit me on the back. But yeah, anyway, yeah, it is effectively what was set up here. You got your wash station there. You see the wash station. So the NGOs set these wash stations up. Down there, over that way, in where I'm pointing, in the woodland down there, that's where the head camp is. So they literally have, what do they have down there? They have light switches, internal and external light switches, and the guys down there are, I mean, they are serious people in there. I think they are probably like the mafia who run the place.
And how physically far are you from the beach? If you wanted to go and get on a dinghy from where you are now, how far away is that?
So it's pretty far from here, to be honest, because I did try and walk it once. So what they do is they'll jump in the back of a van, and they'll head down direct to their dinghy. Usually the dinghy's in the back of the van as well. But also what they'll do is they will glass bottles coming at me now. So I'm going to move down there out the way of the glass bottles.
Yeah.
But
are they chucking bottles at you?
Yeah, chucking bottles at me, running down the road with metal bars. But these are the people that are coming to the UK. Lovely people. Absolutely lovely people. They're throwing glass bottles, rocks. They run at me with iron bars, and they want to come to the UK and live a free life. It's an absolute joke. The place is a shithole, and it really is. It really is a disgrace what's going on here.
Yeah.
You've got the French authorities who just put up with it. They almost enable it.
I was going to say. Do you see any police there, any gendarmerie or anything like that?
Yeah. So you do. They drive through, but what they don't do is they don't stop any of the migrants. They don't stop any of the gun weapon wielding migrants. What they do is they attack the journalists. So I was actually where I'm stood right now. I was parked up, and I was parked up here just the first time that I'd come last summer. Yeah. And what happened was the police sort of pulled past, undercover police. So I was obviously a journalist, jumped out, 5 of them slammed me and another guy against the car. And and then they searched the car up and down. So this middle section here, this big sort of wasteland in the middle, probably, I don't know what time it is now, 9 o'clock-ish here, probably around 10 o'clock, all the NGOs will set up, and they'll be giving out, they'll effectively be propping up this situation out here. If they weren't here, this would not be able to go on. At every single corner of the illegal of the smuggling routes, there are people. The NGOs are propping it up at every single corner. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous, really.
We're just putting, and this is a fantastic report, by the way, Christian. Really, really appreciate you putting yourself in that position to do it. But we're putting up your Substack address there so people can donate to help you do what you do for Watchmen, Watchmen Raw. It is substack.com /at Watchmen Raw, because it's brilliant work you're doing. And as far as your knowledge goes, how many of those people that are living where you are, how long do they live there for before they try and get across the channel, do you reckon?
So it's usually a few months, and usually a few months. It all depends on, one, how much money they've got, and two, obviously, the boat availability. So I literally can't go any further down there now because I won't be walking out. That's how violent these people are. Every single person that you've seen today in my camera lens that I can see right now, they want to come to the UK. That is the purpose of this camp. It is run by people smuggling gangs, and those people smuggling gangs, they operate and they have one mission: to make money out of these migrants, getting them to Britain illegally. And however long the people live here. So actually, the Africans predominantly turn up without much money. I believe the Middle Eastern ones are the ones who sort of run the show, or the operations. The Africans turn up, I believe, as a bit of a disguise. I'm being waved down now. I'm just going to move a bit further to safety. But effectively, they'll be here for a few months unless they've got the money to get straight onto the boat. It'll be the next available boat. Obviously, what you've got just to the side of me there is more encampments. Again, just behind me there on the other side, more encampments.
Yeah.
It's just never ending.
And
really never ending.
All of those people, Christian, that we've seen, some of them we haven't seen, but obviously we've seen a few dozen people. How many of those would you say by, say, I don't know, July will be in Britain?
So how many from now will be in Britain?
Yeah.
So how many
of those people that we walked past that you saw today will be in Britain in a couple of months' time?
Thousands.
Wow.
Thousands. And
the
feed keeps coming, because what happens is the bus stop up near the shops.
Yeah.
Sorry, one sec. Let this go past. So the bus stop from the shops, the big supermarket where they all go, and you know, you've got big security presence up there because of all the theft that goes on, like police dogs drooling at the mouth, security dogs drooling at the mouth, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they walk down there. The people smugglers walk down to the bus stop, and every single day there's new people that arrive at the bus stop waiting for their travel agents to come down from the jungle down to the supermarket, and I'm just going to walk through here now. And then those people are taken from the bus stop up to the camp into their section of the camp now.
Yeah. And are they communicating with each other? Have they got phones? Have they got like chargers? Have they got places to charge their phones and all that?
Yes, so that's all provided by the NGOs.
Brilliant.
And I'm just walking through another section now. This is where I was sat down on a chair down at this camp. I set my tent down up here, in this part down here. And
have you been sleeping out there
I
in
was
a tent?
waiting for the people smuggler. Not this time, but I did set my tent up down here for the first time that I stayed. And a guy came over to me and he said, please, he said, I don't like war, I don't like fight. He said, if you stay here tonight, you will be killed. He said, do you want to lie here dead? Do you want to lie here dead? I said, no, not really. And he said, yeah, I am being followed quite a lot actually. But he said, yeah, do you want to lie here dead? I said, not really. And he said, the Taliban, mafia. He said, they kill you. So there's a potential for the Taliban is knocking around here, ex-Taliban fighters. There has been some reports that ex-Taliban fighters are operating the people smuggling operation. Again, piles of rubbish.
Wow.
It's just everywhere. It's just,
just
more
awful.
tents
So
on the left.
That whole area has just been ruined by these people.
Oh, trees cut down for firewood. Also making huts. And I mean, there's even chickens knocking around, you know, which they capture.
We saw two women early doors, but we haven't seen many other women, have we?
No. So this was the point, literally the exact point there, just past the blue tent, where I was, where I set my tent up. And sorry, just sort the camera out. I set my tent up, and there was shotgun shells on the floor next to my tent. As I'd set it up, I thought, hey, what's this? And then shortly after, I was told that I was going to be shot dead in my sleep if I'd stayed there. So, yeah, I'm just heading on out of the jungle now, and I've got a bit of a walk round.
And where are you going to stay tonight? Have you got a place in town or something?
Oh, yeah, I've been in a hotel. I've been watching illegal activity across through the night, actually. I've been awake all night, believe it or not. So I've been watching activity through the night. So what I'll do is I'll head back to the accommodation, and I will I'll head back to the accommodation. I'll probably get my head down for a few hours, ready for some more observing tonight. And I'm pretty safe where I'm staying, to be honest. But
Well, listen, you're doing a brilliant job. This is incredible what you've just shown us. I don't think anyone watching it will have ever seen anything like it. And thank you so much for putting your life literally on the line.
The thing is, Mike, you know, that's what we do at Watchmen. There's a few of us, few journalists, and we want to bring journalism back to life. And this is unfortunately what it involves. You know, people in Britain need to see that those metal pole wielding, glass bottle throwing scumbags down there who will probably quite happily kill me. They are potentially on the streets of Britain in their thousands. Now, you know, people are telling me to be safe in the Dunkirk jungle, be safe. I've got a message to everyone back home. I think everyone back home needs to be a little bit more careful than me. And that's not spear mongering. It's not, it's not rhetoric. It's not sort of rhetoric. That's the truth. These people are being allowed. What you've just seen there, those glass bottles coming at me, those people will be in the UK soon, and they will be walking the streets of Great Britain freely.
Yeah, incredible.
So,
Christian, listen, I can't thank you enough. What you've done today has just been incredible, and be really safe. I know it's easy for me to say, sitting here in a nice warm studio in South London. But listen, mate, you've got to come and see us in London, and I'll take you out for a long lunch, because I think you deserve it, and if nothing else. But
sounds
mate,
good to
listen,
me.
honestly,
I'll try and get myself to safety.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Take
Christian
care. Bye-bye.
from Watchmen. Just put, if you could, Pooch, his Substack up again. We can send people that way, because what he's doing is extraordinary. Substack.com/@WatchmanRaw. And of course, our own Substack is the MikeGrahamShow.com if you want to try and get in touch with us. But what a man, what a guy, what an incredible report that was. I'm absolutely in awe of Christian, because that's proper journalism, right? Never mind all these wankers like Robert Peston. Oh, hello, Prime Minister, what are you doing? Would you mind talking about, your favourite colour? No, that is proper journalism, and that is what we support right here on the independent Mike Graham Show, because that is what the message is that we should be telling people in this country, and what those idiots in government should see. Because all of those scumbags, as he called them, and I don't shrink from calling them that, who are living in squalor, living in disgusting conditions, literally shitting on the side of the road. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's early in the morning, but that's what they're doing. Man from Kernow says, and our soldiers of World War II saved the bleeding French. They didn't deserve it, looking at this. Well, I mean, to be fair, the French probably don't know what to do about it. They shouldn't have let them in either, but they have let them in. And now we've got these horrible, ghastly encampments of dozens and dozens and dozens of people who are clearly dangerous, who are carrying guns, as he said, automatic machine guns, in the woods, threatening people like him with death, right? Nick Knack says, this is exactly why independent media outlets are so important. Starmer's smashing the gangs, pull the other one. Well, he wants to smash the gangs. That's where the gangs are. Go there and smash the bloody gangs, you stupid moron, right? You don't need to wait for them to land in Dover. Go there and smash the bloody gangs. You complete and utter waste of space. Christian Drogan, man, should get an award for that. He's literally putting his life in danger. People throwing bottles at him, threatening him with metal bars, telling him he's going to get killed if he stays there. And yet he's still there. What a guy. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. I'm going to give him a round of applause. Christian Drogan. Go and find watchman.com and please do support him if you can. I know it's difficult these days, but do what you can, because we need people like Christian to show us what's coming. Because let's face it, all of those people that we saw in that film, they're all going to be here in about a week's time. All those people with their hoods up, covering their faces, drinking water, smoking cigarettes, smoking joints, taking drugs, shooting guns. They're all going to be right here in Britain about a week from Sunday, right? Unbelievable. Unbloody believable. Coming up, you won't see a report like that in the mainstream media. Well done, Christian, says Robert. Yeah, of course you won't, because this is the only place to see it. These are dangerous times, ladies and gentlemen. We are straddling the world here at the Mike Graham Show, and we are going to do more and more of that. We're going to bring you more and more of those kinds of, limitless, unlimited escapades of journalism, because that's what we support and that's what we want. We're not interested in what's going on down at, Westminster, and whether or not there's a select committee being held to discuss what went wrong during COVID, 5 years later. We know what went wrong during COVID. It was run by a bunch of bloody complete and utter morons and idiots. But listen, that was extraordinary. So thank you for watching, if you were able to, and thank you for listening, if you were able to. Coming up, we're going to be speaking to Jamie Jenkins, our favourite man from down there in Welsh Wales, where apparently it looks like Plaid Cymru are going to take over from Labour for the first time ever. Labour are going to lose massively in the elections coming up on May the 7th. We'll bring you all of that, of course, as it happens. But right now, I guess we should get, if he has managed to... Has he managed to fix himself?
No, he won't.
He won't do it.
No, we've been on the phone. HR's been on the phone.
Okay, so should we just not do it then?
No, we've got to do it.
We've got to do it?
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract. All right, so apparently we've got to carry the news with Edward Hughes, even though he's refusing to not look like a complete and utter maniac from the circus. Here we go.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Keir Starmer has firmly told Donald Trump he will not yield to pressure over the Iran war, vowing British troops will not join the conflict despite threats to scrap the 2025 UK-US trade deal. Ooh! Get her. UK inflation fears and prompts an IMF growth downgrade for Britain. The government is preparing contingency plans for potential food shortages and energy impacts from the Middle East turmoil, while defence spending comes under fresh scrutiny from former NATO chiefs. In other news, Prince Harry has spoken openly about the struggles of fatherhood during his Australia tour. Sorry, boring. Let's move on. Business deals continue amid economic uncertainty, including a major insurance takeover and a new Boeing military helicopter contract. Please remember to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything and it really helps the show. Laters, Tigers.
Apparently I'm not allowed to be critical of him at this difficult time.
We can all be who we want to be.
I'm not buying that. Sorry. No, listen, I'm being told, he can be who he wants to be. No, he can't be who he bloody well wants to be, right? This is the Mike Graham show. He needs to be who I want him to be. It's as simple as that. And if he can't manage to buckle under, I'm afraid, maybe we'll send him over to Calais and leave him there, see how he gets on. Listen, we've got lots to do. It's coming up to 8:21 on the international clock, as you can see behind me. By the way, have you noticed that the international clock is now perfectly in sync with our own clock? I've never noticed that before. Also, we're looking for your suggestions for regional swear words, because there's a University of Sheffield a study being done where they're trying to sort of collate what people say to each other in different parts of the country. Here's one. This one's pretty universal, to be fair. From North Wales, A&R Jewellery goes, tosspot. Yeah. I use that one. We use that one down here. I don't think it's particularly rural. Dipshit, says Siege. Where's that from? You got to say where it's from. You can't just throw insult. Or are you just insulting me? Is that what you're doing? How about that? If you look at the ticker there, oil companies are making £30 million an hour. Blue Nose Boy says clacker sack, which apparently is slang for the scrotum. In what frame of reference would you be even talking about your scrotum? You should go to the doctor and say, is everything all right? No, I've got a problem with my clacker sack. What? Handrail for the Isle of Wight. What's that? Handrail? Is that an insult? Is that something you call someone? Handrail?
I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay. That's one from Pooch. Sounds particularly sinister. Let's talk to Jamie Jenkins, who is with us a little bit later than advertised. Jamie, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike. I think my threat of that big march on London got Edward Hughes reinstated, but I got some breaking news on him, Mike.
Yeah, go on.
He's looking to get that job working for Starmer as the new head of comms, but he's got to look a bit like a clown to get a job in Downing Street. So I think that's what he's doing at the moment. I think, Mike,
you think that's
where
he's going?
You're going to bugger off and work with Starmer.
It's possible, isn't it? Yeah, because, somebody's got to do it. This is the thing, though. Somebody told me the other day that he's now got a new chief of staff, but I can't remember who it is. But he didn't have a chief of staff for a long time after Morgan McSweeney left, and he didn't also have a head of communications, who I think also he might now have. But his communications haven't got any better, have they?
Oh no, Mike! And how do I follow that great piece you just had in the camp over in France as well? I think maybe we need to get out on the streets of London and do some live filming down by Westminster, see how many phones are being snatched live on the kind of side of the street.
Well, I'll tell you what: if you set up a camera on the corner of Whitehall and Westminster Square, or Parliament Square, I bet you'd probably get about 25 phones stolen every day. Straight. What's ever happened, by the way, to the CCTV footage that we were told the police were looking at for the street that supposedly McSweeney reported his phone being stolen from?
Well, they've had that BBC drama on, I think, recently, my capture, where they do all these deep fake changing what actually happened on the CCTV. So maybe that's what's happening in real life. They're trying to deep fake some Morgan McSweeney phone theft that's going on, and they're just trying to get that one through MI5 or something.
Yeah, I know, absolutely extraordinary stuff. We should talk, I suppose, about the election upcoming. We've got Plaid Cymru being predicted by the Telegraph yesterday to sweep the elections. And I spoke to Sarah Pochin yesterday from Reform, and I said, would you guys be in any way disappointed if you came second? And I think she spoke for the party when she said, actually, if we come second to Plaid and we push Labour into third place, they'll see that as a pretty good result.
Yeah, so Plaid Cymru are leading the polls. I think Reform would prefer to come second in Wales, Mike, because obviously if they were running Wales, there'll be a lot of scrutiny on what's happening in Wales. And I don't think the party, Nigel Farage and co, would want lots of scrutiny of a national country in terms of things. So coming second would probably favour Reform ahead of a general election. But Plaid Cymru, the way they've changed the polling and the way they're going to do the kind of the voting unit in Wales, Mike, means that they're not going to get a majority. So we're going to end up with a coalition probably like they do in Europe mainly.
Yeah.
And the concern, Mike, is that I think we touched on it a bit last week as well, is that the Green Party obviously having this surge across England with Jack Polanski, where a leaders debate last night on the BBC, and they had the Welsh leader of the Green Party on. There's talk, that they might surge up and get the balance of power in Wales. And when we were talking last week about, I think, the Green Party talking about banning horse racing, we've had one of the Plaid Cymru senior politicians who's in Westminster talking about banning horse racing as well. So we've got some dark times ahead, Mike. But the leader of Plaid Cymru, Rhun Apioreth, if you think Keir Starmer's bad, you could probably double that, and that's kind of what he's like. It's going to be a dark 4 years for us in Wales. It's going to be a situation where basically, Mike, they'll get in because people who vote progressively on the left, they're moving away from Labour, going to Plaid Cymru. We'd probably need 4 years to show how much of a kind of an awful show that's going to be for the next 4 years, and then we might get some real change at the next election.
And are they voting for independence for Wales, or are they not really seeing it that way? We saw a piece in the Telegraph this morning saying that, the SNP are going to probably sweep the board up in Scotland, which might lead to a second referendum possibly on, independence. I mean, are the people who vote for Plaid all wanting independence from the UK, or is it just that they quite like what the Plaid offering is?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's liking Plaid's offer. It's pretty much more a case of we're fed up with Labour. I'm always a big believer, Mike, that parties don't normally win elections, parties lose them.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's what happened in the last general election. The Tory vote all stayed home, and Keir Starmer had less votes than Jeremy Corbyn, and he snuck into the back door because of people voting against the Tories, really, not going out to vote for them. So I think Plaid Cymru is getting that surge in support, but the independent support in Wales, where we had the vote in Scotland about a decade ago now, it's never been as close as what it is in Scotland in terms of yes or no. And you've got people who will vote for Plaid Cymru who are against independence. And they are talking that what they would do is they're not promising an independence referendum in the first term. They're saying that if we were to win the election and we were then to govern, we would look for an independence referendum in the second term. There's no way Wales will ever vote for independence. Unlike Scotland, we don't have the big North Sea. We don't have all that oil and gas, which potentially you could drill for if the government ever gets off its backside.
Yeah.
And if Wales went for independence, we do heavily rely on the taxpayers' money in England to fund Wales as a nation. We get more money coming in from the rest of the UK than we put into the pot. So having independence in Wales would be economic suicide for the public, basically.
Well, I mean, talking of economic suicide, have a look at this clip, right? This is the Welsh Liberal Democrat representative talking about what she would do if they were in charge of the budget in Wales. Her name is Jane Dodds. She makes Rachel Reeves look like a genius. Have a look.
You've promised a lot here. How much will your tidal and hydro investment programme cost?
I don't have the figures and I don't know the Welsh budget, but let's just be clear. We had the opportunity 12, 15 years ago to develop the Swansea Tidal Lagoon, and we didn't.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's where we need to be now.
Okay, you don't know. How much will your business rates relief programme cost?
Again, I don't have the figures, but...
Your innovation investment fund?
We don't have the figures, and we don't have everything fully costed. This is about us looking at the figures and the budgets going forward.
So why last September did you stand up in front of your conference and say you will have fully costed plans on childcare? Because I heard you earlier say you don't know how much your childcare offer would cost as well.
Issues like this change all the time, and we know that it's not just about revenue, it's about capital.
So they were costed and they're not now?
I got £30 million into the Welsh budget 18 months ago in order to expand the childcare programme. We want to go further, we want to go faster, we want to be more ambitious.
I understand that, but you did say last autumn that you had fully costed plans on your childcare offer. So what is the cost of this childcare offer?
We don't know because we don't have access to the figures. It changes all the time. We had a clear policy, but it's changed now and the costed plans have changed.
But I have to ask, with respect, how do you expect people to take this manifesto seriously if you don't know how much it's going to cost and where you're going to cut to make it happen?
I think most people know that if you don't have access to the costings and the finance and the budgets, you cannot say.
I mean, Christ. I mean, is that actually somebody who's paid a salary by the taxpayer to be a responsible member of the Welsh Senedd, who actually is meant to know a couple of things, but doesn't know anything? He literally might as well interview a pigeon.
Oh, totally, Mike. So she's been the Welsh Liberal Democrat leader. She's the only Liberal Democrat who's been in the Welsh Parliament for the last few years. So by default, she's the leader. So she's got a job by default that there's only one there, Mike. But so yes, drawn a salary from the Welsh taxpayer, and that was just remarkable. And the calibre of all the other politicians from most of the other parties in Wales is pretty much on par with that, because what did she say? We don't know the figures. I don't know the Welsh budget. Oh, I haven't costed that. Me and you, I could pop down to London this afternoon. We could probably set up a party this afternoon, just check a manifesto out tomorrow. And then when people ask us, we haven't worked that bit out yet, we'll work it out in a few months' time. I don't know the figures on that. That's pretty much what she's talking about. And Mike, when we were on the show last week, I was talking about the Welsh government, the banning greyhound racing. That is the politician, Mike, that got the greyhound racing banned in Wales, because she basically said, I didn't want greyhound racing. When they needed an extra vote to get some legislation through, she said, well, ban greyhound racing, put that vote in and support me to do that. So, and she's also got some historic issues. She used to work for the Church of England, and she had to apologise for letting kind of abuse survivors down, because there was some bishop there where there was some historic abuse case going on there, and she was supposed to arrange a meeting. It took 6 months to do that. So that's the calibre of people who are drawing on the taxpayer. And what have we got, Mike, in Wales now? Plaid Cymru and Labour have voted for 36 more of these politicians. So this next election we got in May, we're going to have 96 politicians rather than 60.
Yeah.
More and more taxpayers' money going on people like that. Now, come on, Mike, you just seen that clip. Is it right that our taxpayers' money, these people, Mike, would not get a job in the private sector working on similar salaries? If you turn up for a job interview like that, you wouldn't even get to the proper, the main job interview. They would have laughed you out in reception.
Well, I remember when they first started the Welsh Parliament, back in, after the yes vote back in 1999, I was running the Welsh Mirror down in Cardiff, and I used to meet some of these people and go, you're literally as thick as two short planks. I mean, you wouldn't even get a job in a local council, never mind, some kind of, long-term, national representative of a constituency. I mean, they were just literally, they were the dregs of the dregs of the dregs. It was just awful.
Oh, Mike, and the problem is that they are probably some of the stronger ones that you're seeing there in the Welsh Parliament. And then the people who are working for these different parties, running these councils, will be even worse. And it's good to see that. I think some councils, you get a lot of good independent politicians who stand and they kind of get on the council, and sometimes you got independent people leading councils. But this politicians, Mike, and the quality of them. And I say there's clips of Plaid Cymru's leader on with Good Morning Britain this week. Again, he hasn't got a clue what he's planning. He doesn't know in terms of if he's going to want to raise taxes. He keeps saying, Mike, Plaid Cymru, going back to them, that they want a fair funding deal for Wales. And so basically what he wants is, so your viewers and listeners who live in other parts of the UK, he wants more tax to come from them for him to spend in Wales, Mike, we need to lower taxes. We need to get some growth in this economy.
Yeah.
If we don't get the growth, we've seen the IMF downgrade the UK's growth forecast, partly because, a travesty of government failure for decades where we were a net importer of energy. So this war is having a bigger impact on us. You've got to get some growth. These politicians seem to think tax more, spend more is the route to success. It's not, Mike. You've got to let people have more money in their pockets.
Yeah.
Politicians, when you go on television or being interviewed by Channel 4, I think that one was, and said, I don't have the figures, I haven't got a clue. You should literally just bugger off and get out of our space, or get out of our lives.
No, totally. I mean, this whole socialist kind of principle that the only way to make growth happen in the economy is to borrow more money or to tax the people more and then hand out money to people who haven't got any. That's not growth. That's socialism, and it doesn't work. And all it does is end up creating even more debt and even more misery and ever more stagnation in the economy. And I think we know that. You wrote a really interesting piece on your Substack this week, though, about Pakistan. Let's talk about that, because 625,000 UK resident visits to Pakistan. I presume that means people going from Britain to Pakistan, despite the fact that they've all come from Pakistan saying it's too dangerous to live in. But it's all right to go back for a holiday.
Yeah. So this is quite a good one, this is, Mike. So if you remember now, we've had that piece you had earlier on about all these migrant camps. You've got to remember that we do get a lot of people claiming asylum in this country who actually come in on aeroplanes. They come in legally, and then they decide to change their status. So we've had over 100,000 asylum claims in last year. And the top country, when you look at the nationality of these claims, is from Pakistan. Over 10,000 people claiming asylum. Very, very few, Mike. It's just over 100 of that 10,000 came on a small boat. So this is not the small boats that are causing this problem. They're flying in. And what happens is their visas come to an end. They could be on work visas, study visas. And then they say, I can't go back to Pakistan. My basically, it's too dangerous for me. I can't go there, etc. So I looked at then the ONS figures on travel trends. So we can look at where are people traveling across the world when they go on holiday. And it's a big, massive outlier, Pakistan, because if you look at the second most common asylum claims, Mike, it's Eritrea. Very few people visit there to go on a holiday or on a visit. Then you got Iran, then you got Afghanistan. Very few. But Pakistan, you got 625,000 UK residents making visits to Pakistan in 2024. And so more people visited Pakistan, Mike, for a visit than went to Australia, Norway, Japan. So it's a clear abuse of the system. And let's give the BBC some kudos this week as well. So they've done an investigation on some of this. And what they found is literally a lot of people from Pakistan are being trained by legal people to say they're gay so that they don't have to go back. They say, I can't go back. And one of the whistleblowers or one of the investigators come up with a guy saying he was going to claim he was gay to get asylum and then fetch his wife over and tell her to say she was lesbian. This is exactly what's going on. Complete abuse of the system. And who's paying for it again, Mike? The taxpayer. Absolute shocking. And we need to show
who are we employing in the Home Office, right? Who literally, if you walked up to them and said, I've got a bag of sand over here, it's worth £1 million. Give me £1 million and you can have the bag of sand. And they literally give you £1 million. I mean, how stupid these people are.
Oh, my, it's an absolute abuse. It's a complete abuse of the system. Like I say, it's a massive outlier. If 625,000 visits can go off to Pakistan, it's clearly not a dangerous country. And people saying they're gay, and it's coming out on the BBC, they're catching up. I think you were probably talking about this a couple of years ago, Mike, on your other show, that this is basically an abuse of the system. But the hard facts are there. It's not a dangerous country if 625,000 people have visited in there in 1 year. Again, more than Australia, Norway, Japan. It shouldn't be happening, Mike. And not everybody makes these claims for asylum from Pakistan get kind of through the system. But when you look at the claims and then you look at them where people are saying, well, their sexual orientation is the reason for my claim, Pakistan is massively over in terms of proportionality, in terms of what it should be when you look at the overall figures. So it's a clear abuse of the system, Mike. And people need to wake up and smell the coffee on this. And so, I wrote about this one on my Substack. So if people want to get across all the stuff that we talk about, all on my Substack, just stick my name into Google Stats, Jamie. Mike, I know every time we come on and talk about it, my my subscribers come up free for everybody to go. So even if some of the people watching the show know Mike can pop along and support. Stuff like
yeah, no, absolutely
keep
right.
educating people. Important to educate people what's going on, Mike. As you
well, it really is, because like we saw from that incredible report from Christian Drogan there over in Calais. You know, you don't see that stuff on regular media. You don't, you know, nobody's reporting it, nobody's doing it. And I mean, just looking at your story there about the fake gays, if you like, 5 claims that were made to the Home Office from different individuals. This is in The Sun, exclusively from Nick Parker. A Pakistani student arrived in the UK in August 2022 to study for a master's degree, but was suddenly claimed that he was in a 3-year relationship with a male asylum seeker on the day he was due to be deported. Right? So they didn't deport him on the grounds that he was gay. Then another one, a Pakistani and his supposed partner were housemates who claimed they suddenly discovered they were both homosexual after coincidentally meeting in a nightclub. Right? Judge Bartlett dismissed the bid to stay in the country in September of last year as totally lacking in credibility. But then another judge came along in an appeal and said, oh no, absolutely wrong, you should be allowed to stay. It's a complete and utter load of old cobblers, isn't it? Ridiculous.
Oh, Mike, yeah, and these stories are multiplied up when you think, say, over 10,000 claims from Pakistan. And the thing is, and you look at it, and you're talking about the Pakistan individuals here, and then we get stories quite common about people who, and again, these are sometimes coming over on small boats where they put in hotels and they're attacking young women and young children, and then you've got all the Pakistani kind of grooming gang problems. You know, we're importing a lot of problems into this country, and the laughable thing, Mike, is the Home Office. You know, if they look at their annual report, they'll say that one of their primary objectives, or one of the primary reasons for the Home Office, is to protect the safety of British people and protect the borders.
Yeah.
And the Home Office lost protection of the borders a long, long time ago, Mike. It's just every week I come on the show with you, Mike. There's some bad figures that are out there.
Yeah.
It's just doom and gloom, Mike. And I think I messaged you yesterday. I think we need to all just go off to the Canary Islands, get away from Britain, go and do the show down there, Mike, and live it up with all the sun and the sea down there. I think because this
it's not a bad
country
thought.
is going to the dogs.
It's absolutely not a bad thought. More and more people I talk to actually have the same suggestion, so you never know, we might all end up down there. Jamie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins, our man in Welsh Wales, former statistician from the Office for National Statistics, our favourite statistician, of course. We've also got some breaking news for you. UK GDP figures have come out this morning, and apparently in February, UK GDP grew by 0.5%. According to the Office for National Statistics. And of course, what that means is it really didn't grow at all. And it's flatlining. The whole economy is basically going nowhere. And it hasn't been going anywhere for quite some time. And if only it goes anywhere, it will go in the wrong direction, basically down. There is only one graph right now with Rachel Reeves, and it's doing that. Right, thank you, Richard III. And she's off to America to get her bottom spanked by Donald Trump. Sorry to give you that image, but I'm thinking that's probably what's going to happen. He's not happy about it. Let's do some super chats, though, because we've got loads. Why are people paying for Richard III to go to the States with her begging bowl when there are cheaper alternatives like telephone, Zoom, or WhatsApp? Says Libalula. Well, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know why she's going to bloody America. I mean, I'm not willing to pay for it. Laura Jane says, no decent parent would lie to their child and tell them that they can change sex when you cannot. Just because a child likes certain things does not make them the opposite sex. I'm sick of hearing things like birthing person. I know, that's on the subject of Bridget Phillipson. Speaking of which, Intel Lady is going to be in later on to film Plonk of the Week with us, and also Plank of the Week. So she'll be, I'm sure, doing a bit of Bridget Phillipson, you know, because I'm from the northeast of England, you know, and my mum used to run a charity, and I worked for that charity, and that's all the qualification I needed to become a member of the cabinet, and of course, being in charge of the education of the country. Super chat from LTL. Who wants to bet Trump makes Reeves cry? Yeah, well, she's great at bursting into tears at the wrong time, isn't she? Robert says this on Super Chat. How about log if you win plank more than once? Well, we used to do, well, we still do it actually, Plank of the Year, which we did at the end of last year. We'll do it at the end of this year. And if you win Plank of the Year, I think more than 3 times, you get to keep the plank. Why is Ed dressed like a gambling avatar, says Voice for England. Well, I'm not happy about Edward Hughes and his outfit today. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's up to. I think he's having some kind of midlife crisis. I'm going to buy a Porsche next, right? His wife's left him. He's now dressed like a clown.
He might buy a Maserati.
He might buy a Maserati, but obviously he's not clever enough for that, because that would be wrong to suggest that anyone who's got a Maserati is having a midlife crisis. Kiki says, and we wonder why the UK is now full of rubbish. Well, you don't have to wonder anymore, because they brought it with them from Calais, the scumbags. Clip the Watchman's video and make shorts, says Bam Bam. Yeah, we will. That was an extraordinary piece of reporting by our man Christian Drogan, and so we're going to be playing it a lot over the course of the next week, I would imagine. Ask Jamie Jenkins about the Welsh word cocoen. That's a great slang slur. Is that the right pronunciation? Cocoen? I forgot, I meant to ask him that actually, but he's gone now. Cocoen. Is anyone Welsh that can tell me what that means? Or have I said something really horrific? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, you know, I did a lot of time down in Wales, and I never ever mastered the Welsh language. I used to know people who spoke Welsh, and they would speak Welsh to me, and I'm going, literally got no idea. The only words I remember using and remembering were hedlw, which is the word for police, only because you see it on the side of the police cars. But apparently, because a bit like Plaid Cymru, with a Y and a U, you kind of reverse the pronunciation. So I think actually it looks like hedlw, but I think you pronounce it hudley. I don't know. It's very weird. I don't get it. It's a bit like Gaelic. You know, what's the point? Just speak English. Thank you. It's 8:45. Are we going to speak to Harvey Proctor?
No, he's not here at the moment.
He's not here yet. Okay. Well, should we do a meltdown?
Yeah, great time.
Why don't we do a meltdown? Or we can do a bit of Heron of the Day, if you like. It's up to you.
Heron of the Day is apparently amazing. Let's do it.
Let's do Heron of the Day first.
Go on. Good boy.
That's it. Night night, sweetie.
Night night, chicken bib. Oh, what's that? What is it? Bruce Lee. Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Heron of the Day. A heron. Imagine a heron walking into the room. I mean, there's a question for you, right?
Yeah.
You might be able to answer this, Pitch. Have you ever had a strange creature walking into anywhere where you lived, for example? You know,
We took some cows into our halls of residence when I was at university.
Cows?
Yeah, because we were wacky students.
wacky students, yeah. They used to do, my ex-wife used to tell me when she lived in the University of Connecticut, which was up in Storrs, Connecticut, which is up in rural Connecticut, they used to all get stoned and go cow tipping.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, actually. It's not a very nice thing to do, but they used to run into the fields where the cows were standing and just tip them over and think it was really, really funny. I don't think that's funny at all, which is one of the reasons I'm no longer married to her. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I've been in places where, for example, snakes have come in.
Yeah.
I've been in places where a hedgehog came into my house once.
Farmers had a few snakes.
Hey?
Farmers had a few snakes.
Starmer has had a few snakes and one or two Ukrainians popping in. Yeah, I came downstairs and I fell over the the banister and I found myself impaled on a Ukrainian. I don't know how it happened. Nobody knows. Should we do, here's a couple of clips that we should do actually. Okay. On the sex toys front, because this was a story that came out yesterday. You might remember the Labour MP, whose name I've forgotten, but she will make it into Plank of the Week, I think. And basically said that it's time to celebrate a summer of sex. That's what she said. Here's Lucy Powell, who of course is a senior member of Keir Starmer's cabinet, being questioned about it today.
Would you be happy bringing in sex toys to Parliament, as one of your Labour colleagues has suggested? Have you seen this?
I have.
This is Samantha Niblett, the MP for Derbyshire South, campaigning for more open, inclusive and lifelong sex education by saying that she wants to bring sex toys into Parliament.
I mean, I personally don't own any sex toys, but each to their own. I don't know that we need to have a bit too much information going down there, Tom. I mean,
you can't just turn up in Parliament and seeing all these products produced. That can't be the right place.
I'm not really sure that's the right place for it now.
I mean, I'm slightly sort of, I suppose, encouraged by the fact that Lucy Powell doesn't have any sex toys, because it's not something I'd like to think about. She doesn't look like she would want to be involved in anything like that. The woman in question, of course, Samantha Niblett, is the Labour MP who wants to include sex toys as part of the sort of general curriculum of Parliament. Here's what Kemi Badenoch had to say about it. She was in Prime Minister's Questions, of course, yesterday when they all came back from Easter recess, and she made a little bit of a funny, flippant joke.
Call from the Prime Minister. This is Labour MPs are laughing. Labour MPs are laughing, Mr. Speaker. This is a moment of profound national seriousness. And what are they doing? They're promoting sex toys in Parliament. That's what they're doing. Mr. Speaker, yeah, it gives a whole new meaning to fiddling while Rome burns. Mr. Speaker, it is being... That's what they're doing, Mr. Speaker. Let's get back to the issue of the Defence Investment Plan and defence spending. It is being reported that the Treasury is asking the MOD to make £3.5 billion worth of cuts this year. He won't fund our military because he wants to fund more welfare. That's why he has a welfare plan to 2031, but no defence investment plan at all. Now that the Chagos surrender deal is dead, will the Prime Minister put the billions saved from ditching Chagos into defence, or is that going into welfare as well?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are spending more on defence. Record amounts on defence. £270 billion in this Parliament, £5 billion extra. And she talks about the Chancellor. It's because of the decisions of this Chancellor we've got the biggest boost to defence spending since the Cold War. We've also got the biggest pay rise for our armed forces for over 20 years. We've also got the biggest investment in military housing for over half a century. What did they do at the budget? They voted against all of that.
Oh, God, save us. We meant to do this earlier, by the way, so apologies if you weren't properly alerted to the fact that we were about to play a clip of more on Starmer, because obviously normally we play this. Now, amazingly, you might be unsurprised to hear that people are taking notice of this show. You might remember that I've constantly said that Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House, is a complete and utter numpty, useless, doesn't do his job properly, certainly does not keep order in the House. Order! Order! What he should be doing is making sure that Keir Starmer, as the Prime Minister, answers the questions that he is asked. I remember having Kemi Badenoch in my studio over at Talk, and I said, you know, why doesn't he answer any questions? And she said, I don't think it's because he doesn't know the answer, it's because he doesn't want to answer the questions, because he knows that the only answers he can give will actually make him look even more stupid than he does already. So I completely and utterly concur with that, and I think she's absolutely right. Keir Starmer, you know, you wouldn't describe him as a stupid man because he's obviously qualified as a lawyer, he's obviously been to university, he's been a KC, he has been an active barrister. He's a hard man, look at that, look at the punching technique there. For God's sake. Vote Labour, yeah, get Starmer. And so he's not stupid, but he comes across as a man without any empathy at all. This is why some people say they think he's a psychopath. This is why some people say that they think he's a guy who literally can't explain himself because he doesn't really understand how people see him. You know, Robbie Burns once said, you know, oh, to see me as other people would, or words to that effect. It's a slightly, you know, mangled quote. But, you know, the thing about being self-aware is to understand how other people see you, not how you think you are, not how you want yourself to be, not how, you know, you imagine yourself to be, not how, you know, if I could walk out of here and go, look at me, I'm amazing. And then there's a guy over there going, actually, no, a bit of a twat, actually. That's how people should see themselves, as other people see them. And if you were Keir Starmer and you actually were to ask yourself the question, how do other people see me? I mean, I think it'd be pretty straightforward, wouldn't it? Because everywhere he goes, he gets shouted at, he gets heckled, he gets called a wanker, because he is, right? So here, I'm amazed to say, is Lindsay Hoyle finally listening to some of the criticism that he's had from me, and maybe a few other people as well, where he's actually finally told Starmer to answer the bleeding question. Have a look.
A week later, when she realised she'd made a massive error of judgment, she attempted the mother of all U-turns. That didn't work. So this weekend she said, when I said we should jump into the war, she said this weekend, Mr. Speaker, that what she meant, she was talking about verbal support.
Well, Prime Minister, it's Prime Minister's questions. We've got to concentrate. Kevin Bent.
I mean, that's about as far as it goes, right? He didn't say, for God's sake, answer the question, but he did say you've got to concentrate. He did say you've got to answer the question as it is put to you. And in fact, there was another piece of footage which we might show you later, where as Keir Starmer was walking out of the chamber, Lindsay Hall sort of pulled him to one side, and you could see them having a kind of slightly in-depth tete-a-tete, in which I assume and I hope that old Hoyle was telling him, you know, buck up your ideas, mate, because otherwise it's all going to end very badly for you. I mean, we know it's all going to end very badly for him anyway, because, you know, May the 7th is coming. May the 6th, of course, is when we do our live show at Shepherd's Bush Empire. In fact, we should talk about that, but we'll talk about that in the next hour. In fact, maybe we'll do something. Have you got any of the footage that we got?
Be all ready for tomorrow.
Ready for tomorrow, so you can't play it today? No. In other words,
I could play one.
Well, maybe after 9:30,
Okay.
when we switch over, because you know what we do? We switch over to UK Live, and we had some very interesting conversations about that scenario yesterday. But also, we went down to Shepherd's Bush Empire to film a couple of little bits and pieces, so we might show you some of that. Excuse me for sniffing, but I don't know what it is with this bleeding hay fever stroke allergy scenario. I keep, it sort of comes and goes, and this morning it was bad, and then it was fine for a while, now it's bad again. But let's do, before we speak to Harvey Proctor, who's going to be here very, very shortly, let's do Mike's Meltdown. So, Rachel Reeves, she's off to America. According to a piece in The Guardian this morning, she's not going to get a very warm welcome. And in fact, what you might say is it's worse than that, because for those people who are thinking about going to the World Cup in the summer, where apparently Atlanta is kind of the hub, if you like, people have been told, you might want to be careful about what social media posts you make, because it might well be that when you arrive on the shores of the United States of America, whether it be at Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C., whether it's JFK, whether it's Newark, whether you fly into LAX, whether you fly into Miami International Airport, wherever it is you end up, you could be questioned by immigration officials as to why you've written so many nasty, horrible tweets about Donald Trump. Because if you have, they might not let you in. Now, Rachel Reeves has done exactly that. She actually put out a message yesterday saying that Donald Trump's war on Iran is a mistake that's destabilised the global economy and damaged living standards around the world. According to The Guardian, in a marked fraying of the transatlantic relationship, the Chancellor said Trump breaking off from diplomatic talks with Iran and launching airstrikes seemed to have left him in a worse place than when he started. Now, I don't know whether she asked Keir Starmer for permission to say this, because Keir Starmer is always very careful not to insult Donald Trump, although lately he has come out with a couple of, you know, slightly strange statements, like, for example, he's fed up with Donald Trump. He said that. And also he said that he doesn't want to join in the blockade. He didn't want to join in the war. He certainly didn't want to be involved in the war. He keeps telling everyone that would listen that it's not our war, right? But here's what Trump also, what Starmer also said, was that, you know, these are not words that I would use. So he doesn't go all out and all in on Donald Trump. However, this is what old Rachel Reeves, Richard III, had to say. I think it was a mistake to end those talks with Iran and to enter into conflict, because I'm not convinced that we are safer today than we were a few weeks ago. She took aim at the White House on the president's home turf at a meeting in Washington. She basically said she was frustrated at the folly of his decision. And here's the problem, right? Rachel Reeves is not very smart. Rachel Reeves is possibly one of the worst chancellors of the Exchequer we've ever had. She has run the country into the ground. She has made it very, very certain that this, as the UK economy, is going to be the worst affected of all the countries in the G7 by what's happening in the Middle East. She's managed to make it the highest taxed country in the world. She's managed to make us pay the most money for electricity than anybody else in the world. She's managed to make it more and more difficult for people to actually employ individuals, particularly in hospitality and other sorts of front-facing jobs. And basically, she's ruined the British economy. So the idea that she's been allowed off the leash into America to sort of somehow go and do a little row round to try and create some interest in Britain. People in America are not stupid. They can see what's going on. They can see that the streets of London are filthy. They can see they're overrun by migrants, both legal and illegal. They can also see that crime is out of control. And they can also see that the economy is down the toilet. So Rachel Reeves has literally got nothing to sell. She's got nothing to crow about, and she's got no reason to be anywhere but stuck inside number 11 Downing Street trying to fix the bleeding economy. We know she can't do it. We know that she won't be in the job for much longer. But quite frankly, for her to go on a jolly in the midst of all of this madness is quite ridiculous, isn't it? So Rachel, sit down, shut up, get back on a plane and go and hide in Downing Street where you can't do any more damage to the economy than you've already done. Thank you very much indeed.
The Conservatives are now the party of high tax. On their watch, the tax burden is the highest in 70 years. I worked as an economist at the Bank of England before entering politics. I know what it takes to run a successful economy.
Yeah, of course she knows how to run a successful economy. Yeah, run it into the ground and make it even more unsuccessful than it was when you started. That would seem to be the mantra. Now, let's talk to Harvey Proctor, a former Tory MP, of course, a man we've spoken to many times. Harvey, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Now, I understand you've got some things to say about the BBC, to wit the sacking of Scott Mills, and also perhaps the news this morning that they're going to be sacking from the BBC 2,000 people, which is approximately 10% of their workforce. I say it's a good start. I'd like to see them sacking a lot more people, to be honest.
Well, I think the BBC has become overblown and probably has too many people working for it.
Yes.
So a reduction in staff and economising, which most organisations do from time to time, is perhaps overdue for the BBC. With regard to Scott Mills, that issue has gone on for a long time now, and we have not received any response from the BBC as to why they took the action that they did, and again went down this road of innocence until proven guilty and trampling all over that.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for the BBC to say something else. They can't rely on the fact that Mr. Mills may have had a police interview some time, a long time ago, and use that as an excuse for dismissing him. I don't know him. I don't know the background to what he is supposed to have done or not. But the BBC do seem to have trampled over a cardinal principle of UK law, and that is that you're innocent until you're proven guilty.
Yes, it's very odd, isn't it? I mean, I wondered, exactly as you have, about the process. I wondered about the kind of knee-jerk reaction which suddenly seemed to come very quickly after they discovered something. And I couldn't help but think that there was no coincidence about the timing, given that the ex-Director General, Tim Davie, was on his way out and the new Director General was on his way in. And I wondered whether there'd been some conversation about, you know, we must make sure that there aren't any skeletons in the cupboard that are going to come out and jump on me as I take over my new job, you know? It just seemed a little bit too convenient that as the new Director General started, suddenly this guy was swept out of the way.
More to do with the diplomacy within the BBC than facts or the criminal justice system, I think.
Yes, because I mean, you've obviously, you know, suffered more than most at the hands of the justice system and the kind of the criminal court of public opinion, if you like, thanks to some very nasty and untrue allegations made against you. Do you have sympathy for Scott Mills in that sense?
I do. That's not to say that I know anything that I shouldn't know or anything that is not in the public arena.
Yes.
But I think he's been left to dry in the media, and I know well that that is not a good place to be, and it can hurt you and your family and your friends.
Yes.
So I do think it's time for the BBC to be more transparent about its activities.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because it doesn't just, I mean, as I say, pictures of him on the front pages this morning, out walking his dog, seeing for the first time since he was sacked. And, you know, not unsurprisingly, he doesn't look terribly well. He looks rather sort of ashen-faced and hollowed out and clearly not very happy. But he hasn't just lost his livelihood with the BBC. He's also lost lots of other things. For example, I read the other day that he was supposed to be in some panto coming up over the course of the Christmas season. That's been dropped. He was he was attached to a charity in some ways, a benefactor of a charity. They've dropped him, you know, and all of this stuff is happening to him. And many people like you, without knowing what he's supposedly done or whether he did anything, are sort of questioning it, because you go, well, what if none of it's true? You know, what if, you know, if the police couldn't find any reason to charge him, is there really anything there that anyone can say is a criminal matter?
Indeed, and in these circumstances, everything, I mean everything, can go. So from that point of view, from his personal disposition and his life, I do feel sympathy that this has happened to him in the way that it has happened. It's not right. And a senior organisation and institution like the BBC should know better.
Yeah, they should. But do you find, as I do, that they are kind of rudderless in that way now, because they're so terrified, having got so much wrong in the past, that they're kind of gun shy, if you like, of getting it wrong to such an extent that they'd rather just go, just get rid of him, you know, and people going, well, hang on a minute, you know, we knew about it in 2018, nobody did anything then, because I find it inconceivable they didn't know that he was actually being investigated by the police, because surely under any normal contractual situation, if you're working as a talent you know, instruction from somewhere like the BBC, they must know everything about you in order to sort of, you know, to protect your reputation.
Well, the BBC claimed to know everything about me and broadcast it often before I knew myself what I was supposed to have done or not done. I think the BBC are hypnotised by charter renewal and discussions that they may be having now with the government, and being scared of what the future may hold for them. And that, I think, may have something to do with this particular matter, and perhaps other matters too, including suddenly deciding to cut their staffing by 10%.
Yes, indeed. I mean, do you think that might be the beginning of the end for the BBC, this 2,000 staff cull, which is, I think, 10% of their employees?
Sooner or later, I think the BBC should be on the same basis as any other broadcaster, radio or television, and rely on commercial adverts rather than the taxpayer or the licence fee payer.
Harvey, you're a former member of the Tory party. You may still be a member of the Tory party, I don't know, former Tory MP. I mean, what do you make of the state of the two main parties now? They're called the uni party by an awful lot of people who would like to see the end of them both. Both the Labour and the Tory party are probably going to get wiped out at this upcoming local election on May the 7th. Is there any future for the Tories as an entity, do you think?
Well, in 1987, I resigned from the Conservative Party At that time, not all Conservative members of Parliament were members of the party. I had always continued to be a member of the Conservative Party after I was elected in 1979, but I decided after what happened to me in 1986 and 7 to not renew my membership. Last year, I was invited to connect with my old former constituency for the first time for a long time, Billericay and Basildon, and I decided to rejoin the Conservative Party at that time. The Conservative Party is often written off for the future. It is one of the oldest political parties in the country, and I think it's too soon to write off the Conservative Party. Its day will come again.
Okay, well, we look forward to that because I think the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. The more choice we have, I think the better off we all are. But Harvey, listen, good to talk to you, and we value your contribution, obviously, to this show, and we'll be talking to you again very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your invitation. Thank you.
Not at all. Harvey Proctor there with his view. He thinks the Tory party isn't dead. He must be one of the few people who thinks that, because a lot of people think it is actually dead and buried. Tommy says, what a fantastic bloke. And lots of you have got super chats coming in as well. We've also got some information which we were looking for a little bit earlier. Let me see if I can find it, because it's not always easy to find these bits and pieces. But we were asked earlier about a Welsh slang phrase, which is apparently been translated by Jamie Jenkins for us. Cocoen was the word that we were looking for. And apparently it's a common Welsh slang phrase translating literally to lamb's cock or lamb's willy. Used as a colourful insult, it means dickhead or knob and expresses dismay. Thank you for that. There we are. Listen, this is all academic, by the way, because this is a Sheffield University study in the Daily Mail where they're trying to collect various different swear words and insults from around the country because it's obviously there is a difference between, you know, Merseyside and Yorkshire and the Midlands. Proper Raji bastard from the northeast is one. So, you know, there we are. Austin Williams is here. Austin, very good morning to you. Are you from any part of the country that you can bring us a sort of a colourful phrase from?
I'm from Wales.
Oh, from Wales. So are you familiar with this cock?
I haven't heard lamb's cock before, I have to say. I mean, there may be a parody of what the Welsh do with sheep.
I was wondering
creeping
about
into that, but no.
I was wondering about that.
I think, I mean, I didn't even think the Welsh swore, to be honest with you. We're a hefty, you know, a good old hearty Presbyterian country. So
yes, I'm a big fan of Wales, by the way. I mean, I spent a lot of time in South Wales in particular, less time in North Wales, which I found to be slightly odd.
Well, yeah, we don't call North Wales
slightly difficult.
Wales.
And the thing that I found really funny was that wherever you were in Wales, the sheep shaggers started about 10 miles that way.
Yeah,
you know, no matter how far north you got, it was like, no, they're over there.
It's not me,
It's not here. You know, it was either in the Brecon Beacons or it was just north of Cardiff. You know.
Well, South Wales has got a very particular identity. Do you know what I mean? As the industrial side, and North Wales we classify as not really Wales at all.
Yeah, I mean North Wales is kind of more. It's almost Merseyside, isn't it? You drive in on that. Is it the A50?
Yeah.
Or something that goes
to Little Ireland. People who came over in the 50s and 60s from Ireland and couldn't be asked to get to Liverpool, so they stopped off in North Wales.
North Wales, yeah. And I mean, I've got friends who've got terrible memories of spending their sort of childhood summers on Rhyl beach and in places like Llandudno.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a great place. But I mean, again, part of what makes Britain great, I think, is all of those like different regional characteristics of all sorts of different parts of the country.
Well, I mean, I when I was a kid, first album I ever bought was Lindisfarne.
Was it?
Because I dreamed about going to live in Newcastle. That was the extent of my horizon. Do you know what I mean?
I was amazed actually because I hadn't been up that side of the country, because when I was a kid, my parents were both from Scotland. We used to drive, I suppose, up the A1 in those days before there was a proper motorway, and we'd go over like Shap. And all of that, but we wouldn't go up the sort of east coast, and so I never really knew Newcastle. When I finally went on a train when I was a bit older, I went, oh, crikey, there's actually a place called Lindisfarne. I thought it was a band, you know. I was like, oh, look, there's an island over there.
Yeah. You can only get to it 3 times a day or something.
That's right, and you can't get off it if you do get there. So anyway, well, listen, what can we do for you? What are you here for? Tell us.
Well, I'm here to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I mean, obviously there's the farmers' dispute in Ireland. There's crime conversation which has been going on for the last couple of weeks in London. Well, it's always going on, isn't it? But, you know, the idea that Sadiq Khan is now talking about malinformation rather than misinformation.
What do you make of this whole kind of ridiculous debate? Because, I mean, everyone that I know who lives in London, who has lived in London for a long time, is basically quite clear about what's going on. Because you get on the tube, or you get on a bus, or you walk down the street. London is a very different city to the one that I was born in, you know, in the 60s. And it's very clear that an awful lot of people in London are now foreigners. And it's not a question of race or skin colour, but there's foreign voices everywhere you go. I mean, Pooch and I were on the train yesterday, and literally everyone that we were on the underground with was foreign.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm from Wales. So what can you do? I mean,
we don't count you as foreign.
No. Well, some people do. But it is. I mean, look, in some respects, that's the beauty of London, right? Or the beauty of any city.
Well, it used to be. It used to be.
No, I recognise the fact that there are problems that arise from that, and the mass influx which has occurred in the last 10, 20 years has obviously had an impact.
Right.
But I do think that there's two aspects to it. One is that I'm actually quite interested to find out that certain etiquettes, like people I mean, I'm getting old now, right? So people are standing up for me on the tube.
Yeah.
Which has never, I haven't seen that for 20
I get
years,
that.
right?
Does that not trouble you, though?
It does, I hate it.
I get young women now standing and go, would you like to sit down? I'm like, what? No. Do you want to go out for a drink, actually? You know, I'm fine. You know, I've just been at the gym. Do you want to see how much I can lift? You know, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
You know?
No, there is something about it which is disturbing. When people recognise that I'm old, which obviously I've never really noticed.
Because I look in the mirror, right, and I don't think I look old.
I'm a young man, exactly.
Right? Because presumably that's the trick that God plays on you.
Yeah, I got one of those mirrors.
And you kind of go, well, of course, I mean, I've got pictures of myself when I was young, and I look ridiculously young, because I always did look young for my age. But I genuinely, I don't look in the mirror and think you're an old guy.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but I think the only issue I was trying to say was, apart from the fact that there's this kind of strange etiquette which has crept back in some form, right? Or in other areas where people are cycling on the pavement, things that took me 20 years to go through cycling proficiency to learn not to do.
Right.
Those terrible, annoying things are coming back.
Right.
But the broader conversation is about crime and that idea that, you know, we're meant to say that crime is no worse than it ever was, or in fact it's getting better.
Yes.
Sadiq Khan is closing down anybody that says it's getting worse as somebody who's
and you
acting
keep seeing these figures coming out from various different sort of think tanks saying, actually, you know, knife crime's down. Actually, you know, burglary's down. It's not.
No, they choose the month that they compare to.
Right.
I mean, The Guardian did an article recently saying that Rolex watch crime is down, you know.
Because nobody's got one anymore. They've all been nicked.
No, but 1,000 phones are stolen every week still in London.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was an old-fashioned crime, that, you know, people have moved on.
No.
But no, so there's a lot of that going on. And obviously the key thing is that low-level annoyance crime where you walk into any supermarket and anybody that says that they haven't seen somebody walking out with food or bottles of wine for nothing. Everybody's seen it.
And once it gets to that level, you then know that is an epidemic. You know, in the same way that whenever I use the tube, and I said this to Pooch yesterday, I went to Bond Street the other day, which is, you know, right by the main shopping centre of Oxford Street. And one of the big sort of the big gate barrier rather than the narrow one was taped off because there was something wrong with it. And a guy just walked up to it, saw that there was a gap, and just walked through, and clearly didn't pay. And I find that really irritating, you know, because I'm like, well, you know, everybody else is paying. What makes you so special?
No, but that's why.
And inevitably, I'm sorry to say this, you can tell by looking at these people that they're foreign.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people doing it as a matter of course now because it's such a corrosive thing. That I'm standing at the counter paying, watching people walking out thinking, hang on, who's the fool here? Right. So, and you know, but you have to then rein that in, haven't you? Because you have to try to maintain those civilized standards that we've talked about.
No, you do. And thankfully, there are enough of us that will still do that. However, it doesn't deny the fact that the society in which we live is kind of fragmenting. Because there are now a large body of the hall, if you like, who are not paying their way, who are not either paying tax or stealing food or they're on benefits or whatever. You know, we've seen this explosion. I think it was 1.5 million people we saw. It was on the front page of the Sun yesterday. 1.5 million people who have now become in receipt of universal credit since the Labour government got in.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's more and more people now that fewer and fewer of us are paying for.
Yeah, well, I
and
mean,
that changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's a broader question about who the hell is in control of the economy.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the notion of growth, of industry, of actually output rather than just input. And taking anything that is about growth from the Labour Party's perspective is about how you can tax people more just to get those receipts in. Whereas in fact, what you need to do is actually build up industrial capacity to make something and sell it, and maybe then you can make a profit, right? So that grows the economy rather than just shares it around a little bit more equally.
Yeah,
so
because you can't
it's kind
just
of student union economy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You can't just keep going after the people that make some money, take more and more of it off them, to the point where they go, there's actually not much point in me working. We had that other story this week of the reduced cost, if you like, of going to a place like the Tower of London or London Zoo. If you're on universal credit, you can go for £4.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I mean, I don't mind, giving people benefits who can't get a job, fine. But they shouldn't be ahead of me in the queue, paying no money at all to go and see the same thing that I'm paying £100 for.
No, but there's always been that discount of old age pensioners, seniors, and students. Right.
That's
whether
fine.
you think that's fair or not.
That's
right?
all right.
But it's normally
don't mind that.
But it's normally take a couple of quid off.
Yeah, it's not like
90%
no, it's not like 90% off, is it?
And there's nothing to suggest that the people that may be getting those benefits actually deserve those benefits.
No.
They may still be working as delivery drivers or doing third economy stuff.
Right.
So it's it's a very dodgy situation.
It
but
is.
It's more the fact that the Sadiq Khan, I mean, I know he's a pet hate of everybody's generally. I don't know who votes for him, to be frank. But
I've never met anyone that votes for him. Have you? I mean, that's the other weird thing, is you go to any, you walk down the street here and go, did you vote for Sadiq Khan? Anybody? No. Nobody.
No, but it might be the opposite of the secret Brexiteer. Do you mean people's secrets
Khan
voter? Right?
Shy Sadiqas, right? Could be.
Nobody dares say they like him. No, but that idea that, it's a misinformation campaign, that anybody that kind of mentions this is talking down London, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an element of truth to that, right? We have to be a bit careful as to how we portray, London, Britain, and all this sort of. We don't talk it down completely, but there is a reality that we're describing.
There is.
It's a little bit like Hannah Spencer when she was on the campaign trail.
The fake plumber,
the fake plumber, the green advocate, green sage, when she started saying that it was the far right, by which she means reform voters, who were responsible for the Manchester bombing. Right, we talked up the dangers of Islamism.
Yes.
Therefore, is it surprising that an Islamist goes in and kills people?
I know.
Right?
It's a sort of reverse logic, isn't it?
It's worse than gaslighting, isn't it? Right? We can't say gas anymore. It's apparently
not.
Iranian
Well, we haven't got
threat.
it. I mean, that's the other thing.
Well, have you heard the news today about carbon emissions? We got too little CO2.
Really?
As a result of the Iranian conflict.
Okay.
We're not shipping over enough CO2.
Oh yeah, so we're going to not have any fertilizer.
Yeah.
We're not going to have any deodorant.
Whereas Ed Miliband has been saying for the last 20 years we got too much CO2.
Yeah. Well, the Times this morning, and it's doing that thing that I hate that newspapers do and all media outlets do, apart from this one, of course, because we're very honourable, and they start trying to make people panic. They've said it. Lack of CO2 is going to hit farming if the Straits of Hormuz stay shut. UK facing a summer of shortages on the shelves. That's not a helpful story, right?
No,
because
that's talking Britain down.
We're not facing a summer of shortages on the shelves at all.
No.
But if you start telling people there's going to be a shortage of something, they'll start buying it in huge numbers.
I mean, if they flipped it around and tried to develop some kind of national pride, or even in terms of like maybe more people should be joining the army, maybe more people should be in military service because we do have a crisis there. Right? Then that would be talking up the situation, saying we face a problem and we could maybe do something about it to mobilise people in defence of this country. Right? Whereas this is just defeatism.
It is,
right?
and it's a sort of typical what I would call kind of middle class journalism, where you're kind of going, oh, those horrible, nasty, ghastly working class people, they'll all be queuing up, but I won't be able to get my pasta, or I won't be able to get my toilet rolls.
It's also the fact that you wouldn't see an article in the mainstream press in the UK defending Irish farmers.
No.
You know what I mean? It's oh my goodness, how.
Well, funny enough,
terrible.
we've been covering it this week with a guy called Kirk Loco, who's over in Ireland, who's been brilliant. And he's been our sort of man on the streets, if you like, and nobody's doing it. I don't understand. I mean, Pooch and I were talking about this the other day. I don't get why, so-called mainstream media outlets don't cover stories which other people who are their customers, effectively, are interested in. Because what's happening in Ireland is a microcosm of what could happen here, or in any other country in the Western world. They're a European country, they're our neighbour, they're a country with which we have many ties, and many people who are Irish citizens have British citizenship as well. Why are we not covering it?
Well, partly because they're A, oblivious to it, and B, they do recognise, as you said, that this is the working people we meant to call them now, aren't it? Right? This is an uprising,
working people,
which actually which actually could result in real destabilisation of the state.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a revolutionary kind of mood. It's the same with the Gilets jaunes in France.
Do you think there's an actual conscious decision taken? And I mean, I ask this as genuinely because I've worked in media all my life, right? I've never sat in a meeting where somebody has said to me, we don't want to cover that story because it's a bit of an insurrectionist kind of movement, or those are nutters. I mean, I have had conversations where people have said, those are sort of right-wing nutters, we don't want to do that. But nobody's ever said don't cover a story because of that, to me. But somebody's obviously saying that.
No, but I think it's built into the system. It's not as if it has to be made conscious. It's literally how the people in the establishment, how the Labour Party, how the Tory Party think of ordinary people, right? That they should be kind of cannon fodder, or maybe left alone unless they say the right thing. Do you know what I mean? It is like the Brexit vote, right? Yeah. That idea of the Brexit campaign, which was premised on the idea that we're going to have a referendum, but we're going to win it. Yeah. Right? We're all going to vote to stay in the European Union,
Why wouldn't
because those people are so stupid, right? Yeah, right? So they ignored them, and they didn't believe that it was actually happening. Yeah. Even when you're saying about the Tories with, what was going on with your previous interview. Yeah. I remember talking to Kevin Hollingwick, right? I mean, just before the election, and I said, you're going to get stuffed, don't you, in the election? Yeah. He said, do you think so? And you think, have you been following what's going on in the world? You know what I mean? Right? They literally don't.
But there are still people even now, and you can see them every week when they turn up. I mean, I think it was last Sunday when I was watching Laura Kunsberg's show. Victoria Derbyshire was doing it, and they had James Cartledge, who's the sort of shadow Defence Secretary. And he was talking about, the revival of the Tories, and, Kemi's leading us back, we're coming back up in the polls. And I'm going, you're really not. Because all the people that I know who listen to this show and who followed me over from Talk, who were perhaps Tory voters mostly all of their lives, are saying we're never voting for them again. Yeah. They let us down, they betrayed us, didn't do Brexit properly, they allowed all this immigration that Boris waved to come in. Why would we ever put our trust in them again? Yeah. But they don't see it.
No, there is a Westminster bubble phrase for a reason, isn't it? They are contained. Right. They don't believe it. They don't get to talk to ordinary people. Yeah. There's a world of professional class who actually, represent ordinary people but never talk to them, right? So they imagine what they're thinking. Yeah. And that's what you see with, they're not just the MPs, but obviously the background, all the spads and all those kind of backroom boys genuinely have created a world that they believe exists, but isn't the real world we live in.
Yeah. So do you think, like I do then, that there is a kind of finite end to the uni party, if you like, and we're now entering a world where there are going to be more than 3 or maybe 4 parties for people to vote for?
Well, I mean, there'll be those parties, but as you say, the Tory party are dead. Just because Kemi Badenoch makes one good speech and everyone in front headline news, it's never going to revive the Tories, right? They're a busted flush for 14 years of disaster. Yeah. Starmer, Starmer could even be a Winston Churchill figure, right? But everyone hates him so much, it doesn't matter, right? So the Labour Party aren't going to make it. So now we have Zach Polanski, for God's sake, right?
Who surely can't make it through the process to all the way to the general election, can he, without tripping over his own massive feet?
Massive breasts. But no, I mean, I think that, I think he'll be there as the new rising.
Have you seen those pictures of his mother this week?
No.
Who apparently is a what's she described? She's described as a glamour model. She's a sort of Reader's Wives type who's got an OnlyFans account apparently.
There you go.
And funnily enough, I was talking to somebody at the Sun a few weeks ago who said, we've got this story which we think is going to embarrass Zach Polanski massively, but we're trying to get it past the lawyers, because newspapers now, of course, are very reluctant to kind of, do what we used to do when I worked for them, which was to literally just trample all over everybody's privacy and just go, look at this is great. And apparently they never ran the story because, I don't know if it was this story particularly, but they didn't run it because they thought we can't prove it's in the public interest.
Yeah.
But I would have thought, if you're the leader of a political party and it turns out your mother's a kind of Reader's Wife, get your kit off type for 50 quid and film it, I think that's in the public interest, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't want to see it particularly, but
I don't want to see the pictures. You don't want to see them. Well, trust me, when you see the pictures, there you go.
Oh, thank you.
You really don't want to see them. But
well, okay, good.
I would say that is of public interest, isn't it?
Well, he'd probably get more votes for that, to be frank, wouldn't he? But
Yeah, maybe.
So let's hope that that's censored off the social media. No, but I do think that there's, Zach Balansky won't make it. He might get his 20 MPs or whatever repeated.
Yeah. I mean, if they get 20 MPs, that's a great result for them.
Yeah.
Right?
And Reform can cock up, but they're riding a tide. There's a historic moment happening here, right?
I think so.
And Reform are riding
I think so. I don't see any way under which Reform doesn't sweep the board on May the 7th in the local elections. And I certainly don't see anybody challenging them for them. If it is as long away as 2029, I still think they'll sweep that as well.
Except cockiness on behalf of Reform, where they believe their own rhetoric. And secondly, the united front of Greens and Labour getting together to block them.
Yes.
Right? Tactical voting is going to play a big role in this, I think.
And that's unfortunately,
which is anti-democratic in many respects.
Well, it is, but it's also unfortunately one of the aspects of the system that we use, isn't it? Because you can rig the vote.
Yeah. Whereas in Wales, the Wales election for the Senate is actually going to be this kind of proportional representation, which is designed to make sure that you don't really get one leading organisation. It's kind of,
But I'm not a fan of first past the post particularly, but I'm really not a fan of proportional representation because look what you got in Scotland, for example. Yeah. You ended up with the SNP and the Greens, and Patrick Harvey, who was the kind of nutter, if you like, from the Green, the Zach Balansky figure. He was the one that got Nicola Sturgeon into this whole kind of gender reassignment nonsense, which ended up losing her job.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that said you must include. This whole kind of, diversity, inclusion and equity, blah, 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 blah. Everybody can choose their gender, doesn't matter what gender they were born in, all of that. And that destroyed the SNP in the end.
No, absolutely. Right, and I look forward to the days when the Green Party get back to talking about the environment.
That would be nice. I've never heard Zach Balansky mention the environment, not once, And I say, actually, laughably, and it's only slightly tongue-in-cheek, is that the green thing about the Green Party now is the Hamas headband that they wear, as they walk into to the polling booth, because that's more what they seem to be about than anything.
Well, Hamas are all about the environment. I mean,
they are, absolutely.
It's a minor
policy. They want to make it as dangerous as possible. Listen, great to see you.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I don't know what again, this is why I love this show, because you can come in and I don't know if there was something you specifically wanted to talk about, but we talk about anything.
Absolutely.
You got any books out or anything you want to plug?
Funny enough, I got a new pamphlet out, which is I've run a series of books called 5 Critical Essays, which is really taking a look at topics from well-being to EDI to beauty, all these kind of issues, which are either thrown away as being right-wing or whatever. Yeah. The latest one, which came out on Saturday, which is available free online PDF. Which is called 5 Critical Essays on Over-Regulation of society, of design, of public space.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because again, we were out yesterday, and everywhere you go, we were down at Shepherd's Bush Empire, we were doing a show, and we did a bit of filming inside, came outside to do a bit of filming, and there was a sign that said, first of all, the Westway M40 is closed from the beginning of April to the end of April, so you can't go on it, nowhere. And then another sign that said "No idling," and a picture of a car. And if you are caught, it's just £80 fine. And you're going, who's going to determine whether you're idling or not? I'm sitting here in a car. The engine's running because I'm on the phone or something. Is that idling? No, I'm on the phone. Or you want me to stop when I'm on the phone. You don't want me to drive while I'm on the phone, and you're now going to penalise me for stopping, which you asked me to do to be on the phone.
Well, it's a bit like if you...
Welcome to Britain.
Yeah, but people in the past have been prosecuted. I used to run something called Transport Research Group, and people who'd, in the middle of winter, when they're trying to de-ice their windshields, would rush out in the morning, turn the car on to warm up, and then go back in the house to get their suitcase. And by the time they came back, they'd be prosecuted because they weren't in charge of a vehicle. They were running a vehicle, but they were actually not in charge.
I was always worried. I never did that, because I always thought, what's going to happen? I'm going to start the car, I'm going to go back inside, I'm going to come out, somebody's going to drive it off in it.
Yeah, or to take the handbrake off.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Austin, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Austin Williams, with many things and a pamphlet that you can find. Where do you find that?
On Future Cities website.
Future Cities. Okay, there you go. Future Cities is where you find that. We've had a fantastic show again. I have to say, Christian Drogan absolutely blew us all away. Great guest, says, was new. Overregulation pamphlet is much needed. Good man. Yeah, he absolutely is. We are now at the point where we go over to UK Live. If you haven't done it before, it's very simple. We get to 9:30 effectively. It's now 9:33. Basically, Pooch will put a little reminder on the YouTube chat, and you hit the button and you move across to UK Live, where in times to come, in the future, not too long from now, there will be other shows that you'll be able to watch throughout all the course of the day, right? Which will be great fun. And so when we do go over to it, we've got a couple of messages for you. We can take calls as well, by the way. So if you're on Substack, have a look on Substack and you'll get instructions on how to call the show. And we can take a call from you as well.
Video from yesterday.
Hey?
I've got a video from yesterday now.
Oh, have you?
Shepherd's Bush, yeah.
Oh, you have? Oh, brilliant. So we'll watch a bit of that because we've got, we were down at Shepherd's Bush, as I say, yesterday to do a little promotional video that we can show you for the show, the live show that we're doing on May the 6th, the night before Labour gets their arse handed to them by the general public. But shall we move over?